One man had a vision, and it would change our world.
Welcome to WrestleMania!
As the vision grew, we cheered it on. Stood in awe.
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
Held onto our seats.
History has been made!
And gave up our hearts.
The boyhood dream has come true!
We watched with utter disbelief.
He won't do the song! I can't believe my eyes!
Stunned silence.
The Austin era has begun!
And sheer amazement.
Oh my God!
But above all, we've been inspired and enriched by the vision.
Welcome to WrestleMania!
I think this is fake.
You can't say that.
I can say that.
Wrestling's not fake!
It's still real to me, damn it!
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary.
You are listening to Marks on Commentary. I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
Are we going to introduce your guest? Are we going to introduce the guest, or am I just part of the show now?
Listen, just because you're like a esteemed guest that we're having on here, you're expecting way too much from us, Mike. This is Mike Wendt, by the way.
I know it's not every day that you have a goddamn TV star on your show, but I'm regionally.
Mike Wendt of Wicked Bites. Can I plug that you're on ZLX? Is that allowed? Can I?
Sure.
Can I say that I used to work across the street? I worked from Mike's rival. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. I had probably more friends from the rival station than I did at my actual station.
Well, I'm curious. Does the rival station, did you guys actually employ anybody, or was it like you had the 6 morning show people and then robots the rest of the day, right?
You know what? I was one of those robots. Okay, $10 an hour is nothing to sneeze at, my friend. It took a lot of effort to watch How I Met Your Mother and Monday Night Raw,
sure,
and occasionally make sure that the Cars for Kids spots did not air in the beginning of the commercial block. Okay, that took a lot of effort.
It's in the 4 spot, right?
Yeah.
It's in the 4 spot.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. Would be the equivalent of Jason talking about public access stuff to me. Like, Jason, I don't know Jason. Yeah, it came after the cluster saver, Jason. Don't you understand? Anyone listening?
Yeah,
right
giving up the overnight radio, that was probably the worst thing I could do for my podcast, because I lost touch with everything. I think the last time I was on, I talked about how I hadn't watched Raw in a month and a half. I'm just it's like shit. I can't even keep up with the thing that I'm supposed to be talking about on my show, because I stopped working midnight to 6 like a fucking vampire.
Well, welcome to my life. I mean, when you're essentially all right, this is my job. My job is to essentially be sleep deprived. So what am I going to do? This is before. Yeah, this is before the 3 hours. Yeah, it's equivalent. It literally was babysit. I sat and I ate snacks and I ignored the child.
Right, exactly. I mean, when you break it down, and this is how I kept myself sane, because there are people out there who think they're reinventing the wheel by running a board from midnight to 6, but the bottom line is it's like babysitting. Your only real job is to make sure that the station or the baby doesn't die. So as long as you can take those 20-minute naps if you got a good Zeppelin song on, and then wake up and make sure that the station's still alive, and then you go back to bed. It's
now, this is how I can tell that obviously you're not a cigarette smoker, because we called those our smoke break songs. Anytime we got no quarter. Awesome.
Yeah, no quarter. The best was Mountain Jam. It's 34 minutes by the Almonds.
Now, I don't mean to get off track, Jason. I'm sorry, but where Mike worked for a classic rock station, my wife knows this because she'll change the channel anytime it comes on, because I get Vietnam flashbacks. Tush by ZZ Top was a board operator's nightmare, especially if you didn't have any drop songs to make the top of the hour hit where it should, preferably hit.
Well, the worst thing was we just at ZLX this past weekend stopped doing what we call double shot block party, which meant you have to put whatever you're playing, you got to play 2 of that artist. So dropping a song was a fucking nightmare. Adding a song was even harder. So if you're running way early and you're like, I need like 4 minutes, but like every classic rock song is a minimum of like 6 to 8, and you gotta have 2 of them.
Seeing as how we both work the same shift, daylight savings.
I hate
fuck
it.
you. That's all I could think was fuck, because this essentially meant that I had to be good at math, which I am not. That's why I was in radio.
Right.
So I can't tell you how terrifying it was to hit midnight, because immediately I would think like, I do not want to call Carrie at like essentially 1 a.m. and be like, I fucked up. Yep. I need some music.
Yeah.
We haven't heard Kid Rock in like an hour, right? Do you have like 3 Kid Rock songs we could play? If you give me Tush, I will slap you.
Yeah, a good ball with the ball would always get you going around midnight, right? It's a good 2.5 minute.
Mike, we played things that I didn't think were still relevant in like 2011, 2012. 2012 was the year that I essentially was like, I've gone through 3 cars and $10 an hour. It's charitable considering that really I don't push buttons, so to speak. I mostly create like the idea that I push buttons when really I just got bored and would answer the one caller at 3 a.m. thinking it was a good idea. And next thing I know, I'm talking to a guy who took acid once, never came back. And would tell me about the angels he spoke to.
Dude, we're all sitting around the fire. We got some PBRs. Can you play like 2 hours of Molly Hatchet?
Yeah.
How about you like jump into the fire and just don't get out ever?
Yeah, my favorite was Nazareth. I remember the best was I would get drunken phone calls from the morning show staff.
Sure.
And I'm sure I don't want to throw them under the bus, because while I'm not in radio anymore, if I get desperate, because essentially what I do now is I work in retail. It's the retail version of radio, which is before it was like I was in a safe, secure building where you needed a badge. So nobody could actually hurt me. Now I get to meet and deal with these people face to face. Every day is scary, Mike.
Yeah.
Every day is scary. And
that was kind of like
crushing.
When we moved, ZLX was originally on the 24th floor of the Pru, and that was very nice. Same thing there. You had your ID. You could park in the garage, take the elevator up. You'd spend the night watching people fucking the Sheraton across the street. All good fun. Then we moved to Brighton, and we are on street level with a big fucking window in the front. So anytime anybody decides I'm going to get shit-faced and drive the car into the building, hey, just make sure you don't do it on my shift.
Now, I can say this because they are long gone, but you were talking about obviously being voyeuristic with the Sheraton. Do you know how humorous it was to be across from a train station in Lynn and watch a crackhead give a blowjob to a homeless man?
Oh, dude, our offices for the TV show are in Lawrence. I take the fucking train from Lawrence home every single night, and as I posted on Facebook tonight, it never ceases to amaze me the shit I see on a nightly basis. I mean, it's just I every single night there's some guy sitting there with the nods, the nods, and all of a sudden,
I know the nods.
Oh, and he'll wake up and think, random ninjas are stabbing him, and he'll want to take it out on whatever, elderly person is sitting next to him, and it's always in it. Tonight there was a couple of Hare Krishnas chanting the whole way from Lawrence to Boston. It's a good time. I couldn't turn the fucking volume on my phone up high enough.
Now, if we're gonna trade essentially stories like this,
sure.
Now, again, it was mostly radio stuff we were discussing here.
Yes.
What I deal with now at my soul crushing awful job, I had a woman essentially abandon her 4-year-old child in our store.
Always a good time.
Always a good time, because I'm the only person that knows who the child belongs to and where the child actually belongs. So I just send my coworker over with the child and essentially go to the pregnant mother, because she's pregnant, because breeding laws. Why do we need those?
No.
And the mother very nonchalantly was like, thanks. Meanwhile, all of a sudden I'm thinking, $10 an hour and finding porno magazines in the studio doesn't seem nearly as bad anymore.
No, it really doesn't.
Now I kind of miss like working like 20 straight hours, because the asshole that's supposed to come in like let me go at 6 a.m. was basically just like, don't want to come in. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just not going to show up. Doesn't seem nearly as bad. especially because a heroin addict up close, like a heroin addict on the phone, you're kind of like, yeah, I can deal with this, whatever. I can kind of taunt and tease him. Sure. When you see them up close and they have blood on their shirt, you're just kind of like, oh man.
Yeah. See, I did in a previous life, I did retail as well. I did Sears, but I was on the security side of Sears at the Square One Mall there. So my job was a lot more fun than the average employee in retail because we only got called when shit was going bad, and we didn't have to be nice to the customers. It was almost encouraged that we weren't. So, I mean, we could sit here and talk for days about chasing crackheads down Route 1 with a hatchet in my hand and only stopping because I wanted to get a Whopper at Burger King.
The best part about this conversation was, Mike, you had me at Square One Mall.
Yes, sir.
That's all you had to say. And Jason knows because Jason is currently living in Saugus. So Jason knows the whole.
Jason is currently living in the Square One Mall.
Yeah.
Jason is currently living in one of the men's stalls of the Square One Mall. So Jason.
Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be in there. Oh,
he's
boy.
constantly off heroin addicts and crackheads with a makeshift shank that he got from Bed Bath and Beyond or whatever stores are still there. I don't actually know. Is it still a mall?
I mean, I haven't been since I left.
Malls are dying, so
yeah, they're becoming what they're becoming now. What's becoming more popular is the lifestyle centers, I believe, as they're called. Stuff like Market Street in Linfield or Assembly Row in Somerville. Those are becoming more it's almost like the new malls. Yeah. You know that.
What I love about those places though is they're very bleh, like they're very like hoity-toity, like bourgeoisie, but it's always crackheads that go to Wahlburgers.
Well. No.
I'm just saying. They market these places to people that have money, but even people that have money know they're better than that.
Well, I mean, even people who don't have money watch reality TV, so that's what you.
Don't get me wrong. If I could, Wahlburgers would endorse Marks on Commentary, and eventually, I screwed up the cold intro because I was going to make a pun because I'm big on puns. It was going to be Marks and Mike on Commentary.
Ah, waka waka.
With the hope that I could just guilt you into hosting more, because essentially what shows boil down to is I talk nonsense, and Jason just puts up with me. God bless his soul.
Oh, see, yeah, this would be a lot easier than me actually trying to do what I was doing earlier. I had the fucking cameras up, I had the whole thing, and then all of a sudden the sun went away, and I don't know. We'll see.
If I've learned anything in this life, the harder you try, the quicker you learn it's not worth it.
The best part about this is I'm realizing right now I'm the only one with a fucking a camera that's on. I just looked up. I'm like, holy shit! I have your weird cartoon and an 8-ball staring back at me. That's wonderful.
And that's an outdated cartoon because I must say now the other thing that I like is, for those of you who don't know, because why would you? This is the first time that Mike Wendt has ever spoken to me or Jason. More specifically, because one of the things I learned in radio was I didn't have a Facebook, and my APD at the time, Mike Morgan, who is now at Mix 104.1, producer Mike, awesome guy, was my
works for a shit show, but yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, awesome guy, like nicest guy. He was essentially my tutor. Was like, oh, you should get a Facebook, so you should network. So like the creep that I was, I just stalked every radio personality I could.
Right.
It was that, or it was breaking into your studio with hot pepper sauce and a toy gun.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially saying, I went to CSB. I owe $14,000. Give me job.
Oh, you got in after me then. I only owe 12. They tacked 2 more onto you.
I was actually working there. Like, they let me go like a month before they chained up the doors and like let everyone go and didn't tell them. I was essentially a fugitive because I was in the middle of my internship when they did that. So Mike Morgan was like, we have to sneak you out of the building because legally you shouldn't be in here right now. Can you do Kerry's prep work from home? I'm like an idiot. I'm like, all right, I'll just do everything from home.
Yeah, there's no extra pay for that, right? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, there was no pay. It was essentially
radio people.
Radio. It was basically slavery. It was like one notch above sweatshop because I didn't even get college credit because it was CSB. So it was like, college credit. They'll sign a sheet and they're lying through their teeth.
That's the nice thing about CSB, though. You can, like, I love how they tell you, oh, you can be an intern forever. It's like, I don't want to. I would rather just do the regular intern thing. And then, I mean, I was too old at that point. I wasn't going to fucking put up with internship. I'm like, you're going to fucking pay me. And that's how this is going to work. I got out of CSB. I got into radio a bit too fucking late. I was 25. So I was like, I wasn't going to get into that. I'm not working for fucking free shit. I'm just like, all right, I don't give a shit if it's promotions, but I'll work for money. I'm not going to, I don't mind fetching coffee as long as somebody's paying me to fetch the coffee.
So I was a little bitch boy. So
Yeah.
we're just going to assert that right now. Mike Wendt had more balls than I had. I walked into FNX after writing Big Jim, who now is at the Sports Hub.
Sure.
Sweet guy, really awesome guy. But he was the one that basically told me, hey, dude, you're a good writer. Leave radio now while you still can. I was like, why? I'm going to be a radio personality. It's going to be great.
Notice we started this by saying I do a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You see where that's going? Radio is very much. I mean, I still do the one shift there, but it's a token thing just to keep my longevity. So I can say in October, I can say, hey, I've been there for 10 years and nobody knows who I am. I still get that. I go to meetings and I still get that. Who are you? I'm like, fuck you. I've been here for 10 years. Why don't you go get my fucking coffee?
You know what, though? You've been there for 10 years. My amazing, brilliant idea was, I'm not even lying, day one, when Mike Morgan finally shook my hand, he was like, hey, man, like, I actually had an interview with Kiss 108 for, like, you run the boards for one night a month.
Sure.
And I was somehow like, that's better than interning. Incidentally, you know, they call him Gay Jim, but Jim over at Kiss 108 just stink-eyed me the whole time. And like, basically like, why the fuck are you at Kiss 108? Like, stay at AAF. Like, what are you doing here? Like, I just want a job. I want legitimacy. That happened to be the same day I went to my internship late, and they were like, you're hired. First shift I did, and I was just like, oh God, I need to go back to college. My brilliant idea wasn't like, oh man, like I should be a doctor or I should work in human services. It was, I know what I'm going to do. I know exactly what I'm going to take Big Jim's advice. I'm going to be a writer.
Oh, yes.
Almost 6 years at a thrift store.
Nice.
Now that we've sufficiently depressed the hell out of you, and speaking of depressed, now again, that's what I was getting at, was that Mike Wendt is used to me through Facebook. If anyone follows me on Facebook, my posts can range from slightly comical, pop culture relevant, to do I offer the guy the toaster that he's going to throw in the bathtub? Like, is that bad?
Well, here's how I kind of I have a very soft eye when I'm scrolling through Facebook, and normally I just continue scrolling if I see the post is any more than like 4 or 5 lines. I just keep on going. I don't care. It's not just you, anybody, because quite honestly, my ADD gets me about 3 words in, and I'm done.
Jason, I'm gonna point out this is actually why Mike's talking to us right now. If Mike's ADD hadn't kicked in, okay, Mark's on commentary. Who's on that show? No. I'll buy my own razor blade.
It's easier than doing my own show, though, to be honest with you. Well, you guys posted and recorded and all that stuff. I just gotta sit here and talk into a fucking microphone.
Correction. Jason hosts and records it. I just drink bourbon I drink my Lemmys, if you will, and I just
boy.
And poor Jason just sits there like, you know, when Eddie was in radio and I was like, I got this great idea and I think he'd be a great asset to this. Flash forward to now, and he's probably just like, any day we don't record this, he's probably just like, oh God, I hope Eddie doesn't call
3
me.
years
Please
ago,
don't.
you started off so strong and fizzled out from there.
It was a good idea at the time.
You know what? That's not my fault, Jason. All right. And that's what you can call this episode. It wasn't my fault.
Well, why do you think it was the Mike and Billy show and then turned into the Mike Wendt show? Yeah, Billy kind of got sick of my shit too, because of what we're doing here. No, I'm kidding, of course. Billy just got a real job.
This started off as the Eddie, Jason, and Catherine show, and then Catherine wasn't here anymore.
And then it went to the Eddie.
She's a nice girl. I think she's still working for CZW, but.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, Catherine's deal, and I can break this down. You know what? We're gonna break kayfabe. That's a new name of the show. It's called Breaking Kayfabe with Eddie Brophy and other guys.
That guy's already got that one copyrighted. Yeah.
Wait, somebody already has that title?
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's actually kind of successful too. So you're gonna have to come. He wears a suit in his videos too. That's what I find successful. Holy shit, that guy has a suit in his videos.
But we had jackets in our videos. Jason, defend me here.
Right. I remember. Shit, I remember your videos. Yeah, they were actually. I remember that. That was actually a good concept.
Yeah. Well,
see that, Jason? Video was a good concept. What have you done?
Video is a much better concept because you can do both. See, that's the trick. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm still trying to get my thing to do. I was doing before I took my sabbatical back in November. I was doing both. I was doing the live on YouTube and then posting it the next morning to all the iTunes, Stitcher, Glork Normal, all the other bullshit. Yeah, so,
Jason,
gotta work all the angles.
I spent $80 in that blazer at Target. That blazer is coming out of that closet. All right, we are going back to video.
Did you expense that, Jason? You're getting write-offs on these?
Oh yeah.
You gotta expense everything, babe. I mean, Jesus Christ, I do a food show on TV. I expense every cup of coffee I get at Dunkin' Donuts. Trust me. Fucking my taxes are ridiculous.
Meanwhile, when we hang up with you and the show's over,
the government might be listening.
Understand that when you hang up and the show's over, we're going to both say to each other, what does expense mean? We should look into that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you gotta Google these things.
He called you babe. He's the real deal.
Yeah. So, I like to think I am anyway.
At some point in our pro wrestling podcast, I suppose we should probably talk about pro wrestling.
You gotta finish your story? I thought you were going to break kayfabe or something.
I thought I just did.
I don't know.
I thought you were going to tell the Catherine story or something.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I thought we were still talking about that kid in the store.
Damn it, guys. There's a reason why Jason does all the heavy lifting and all the dragging cables and all the real work, and all he does is, are you around, Eddie? Are you slightly sober-ish? No, I'm good. Let's talk about wrestling.
Me neither. This is why the New Age Insider stopped inviting me over to their fucking show, because I used to just turn it into a train wreck. They wanted to get all professional and shit, and I just hit the fucking e-brake on that one.
Jason, all right, so Jason,
here's 30 beers. Let's drink them.
Jason is hopeful for the professionalism. How do I explain
that's since gone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if Jason is Sports Center, I'm Ricky Rackman, and I just kind of show up and I'm just like, hey, can we just like drink beers and destroy the set? Like I'm sure I got Axel's number somewhere. We can just kind of show up and just not
as
care.
Long as there's a camera rolling. Yeah, you absolutely can.
Well, now we have to do a TV show with him, Jason. Damn
Obviously.
it. We know someone who is on television, Jason. Why are we not eating food with him? And
everybody says that. That's the best part about it. Like, you got the best job. I'm like, dude, you know how hard it is to not be 400 pounds right now, and actually still have a moderately functioning liver. Holy shit!
I'm 130 pounds soaking wet, so I'm pretty sure I could be
you got a good start.
Pretty decent start. Pretty decent. Well, going back to the Catherine thing, Catherine.
Right. Okay.
Shut up.
Focus, Eddie.
Catherine genuinely has a passion for wrestling as an industry, and she was bringing in a lot of indie guys.
Yeah.
Subsequently, I was notoriously absent for all the episodes.
Okay.
I was notoriously absent for all the episodes where they would interview indie wrestlers.
Uh-huh.
Mike, the clearest answer is I didn't care.
Yeah, that again, I want to point out another reason I'm thinking my friends at the New Age Insiders don't have me over. I almost destroyed their Donovan Dijak interview because I just kept saying who, and I like Donovan. I met him at a Providence show, and I almost had him on the TV show. And he is a genuinely sweetheart. He's a genuine sweetheart. But yeah, at the time, I mean, at the time ROH wasn't on Nessun. I didn't follow it. I could barely keep up with, the 97 hours a week of WWE, and I hadn't heard of him. And it was probably 2-3 years ago at this point. And they were very excited because they were going to get to interview him live on the show. And I had about 47 and a half beers in me and just kept saying, who? During the interview.
Now, do we still have
doing the old off mic? Who's that? Who's he?
Do we still have like a ProWrestlingTees.com t-shirt thing?
There is. We were supposed to get a 3-month trial, and they've since kept us on there since WrestleMania 30. So
nice.
We haven't sold any since then. But
okay, I was gonna say if we haven't sold any, it's because the latest t-shirt idea that I'm coming up with now is a Mike Wendt is my spirit animal shirt.
Nice.
And it on the back, it'll just be the two of us, just like cross-arm drinking beers together.
I like it.
Throw it together, Jason. That's a new concept.
It's a good one.
And Jason immediately regrets asking you to ever do this with me because at first he's kind of like, oh, he's legitimate. He has a show. Oh my God, he's talking to Eddie. Oh dear God, this is not going to work.
Yeah, but this is and take it from not only a professional broadcaster here, but a goddamn TV star. Let me point that one out again. This is what the people like. They like it to be real. We'll get to WrestleMania. Obviously the important topic of the week. We'll get to that, but everybody's getting to that. They want to get to know us, you, me.
It's
you got to
not
think every 15 minutes you got a new audience. At least that's why my program director keeps telling me.
I don't even want to tell you what, because there's a possibility that one day I may want to go back to radio. I don't even want to get into that crap of what word economy was the big one. Eddie, you'll never make it in radio because of word economy.
Word economy. That's that one I never heard.
I've never in my life. I remember listening to BCN during like the Nick Carter day.
Yep.
And I must say, like the highest compliment I was ever paid by anybody was when Nick Carter, who was in New York at the time, he was doing his On Tap with Nick Carter show.
Yep.
It just happened to be Facebook harassing his wall. And he said, You know what, dude? You were the funniest motherfucker I've ever met. And I was just like, that's it. That's like getting a blowjob from an angel. That is just everything I've ever wanted to hear. So, if nothing else, Nick Carter thought I was funny, but like they just rambled. That was radio. Radio was fun because even if they talked over the intro of a song and you're sitting there with your tape recorder, like, hey, I can't afford to buy the Audio Slave album. I want to listen to Cochise without you talking over it.
I still hold on as one of the best compliments, although I'm not 100% he meant it as a compliment. Carter Allen, he still tells his story. It was probably when the hell were the Bruins? 2011. So what, 5-6 years ago almost.
Yeah.
And so after one of the games, I had to go in and do my shift. Now, if you followed me back then, I used to do like a constant stream of thought on my Facebook about the Bruins game. Same on Twitter. I've kind of slowed down just because, again, I don't care anymore. I mean, not that I don't care about the Bruins. I still do. I'm wearing a goddamn Bruins shirt. If this was a video thing, you'd see it. But I don't have the energy anymore to live tweet literally everything on TV. So it's hard enough once a month for fucking wrestling. So anywho, I would drink during the games, as you do. And then I go in and do my shift. And Carter came in one day and he's like, so I was driving home the other night and I heard a AC/DC song start. I go, yeah? He goes, yeah. And then I heard a voice that wasn't Brian Johnson singing the song. I was shit-faced singing AC/DC with a live mic. Oh, yeah. That happened. The whole song. Luckily, and the thing is, he kind of laughed it off. Like I'm sitting there like, in the principal's office type of thing. He didn't call me in, but he was like, I'm like, shit, am I going to get fired because of that? And he's like, no, that was actually pretty good. You didn't curse, which it was like he was really impressed with that. I'm like, hey, thanks. He goes, yeah, just make sure the boss doesn't hear you do that again. Like, okay, gotcha, guy.
This is reassuring because there was a Christmas break where I was getting all the hours during the overnights. And
of course you do.
I naturally got bored because I'm just like, I've heard the same Green Day, the same AC/DC, and I've heard the same goddamn songs over and over. So I would go through, whatever the hell we were using at the time, and I would throw songs in queue. So I'm listening to Deftones, not realizing that it's queued up. So while the actual song's playing, you're hearing Change by Deftones, and then you're hearing like
Mixmaster Eddie over here.
Yeah, and you're hearing like the Nixons and whatever.
That's awesome.
And my friend Japo texted me at like 2 a.m. and was like, hey man, like I know you don't talk, but I thought I'd listen to A Up just to see how badly you're fucking it up. And I'm not disappointed. I just heard the Deftones over Linkin Park, followed by like X amount of obscure songs. Like, are you doing that on purpose? Like, are they firing you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I realized, oh my God, I've been listening to like a million like Tool and Deftones and like just obscure shit like off the Varsity Blues soundtrack. At some point I got bored and I just started popping in like the Demon Knight soundtrack and it's still queued up.
I like the Demon Knight soundtrack.
We're like listening to like Pantera Cemetery Gates and like, 1-900 Suicide, and it's all live. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. But luckily, nobody notices. I have this guy, Ron, who this is radio, and Mike can corroborate with me on this.
Yeah.
Radio is a business where I drove in blizzards, tornadoes, grandmother dying, father getting cancer. I was all there. I was there for all of that. This guy, Ron Travers, his liver essentially just stopped working. So I was covering his shifts, till he got to good health. And he was like, dude, I need the money and I can't afford to lose my shift. Was driving from like East Bumfuck, New Hampshire to Brighton with a catheter in him. And people were telling me like, oh man, dude, you got such a great work ethic. Why? I'm like, because unless the mortician wheels you into the fucking studio and like Mistress Carrie looks down and like grabs your arm, feels your pulse and goes, yep, he's dead. You had no excuse. Like, I remember having the shit so bad. My third day on the internship, going in the toilet, not realizing that like the like vice president, whatever, is in the next stall, and you're, and I'm just sitting there like, oh, and realizing coming out and seeing this person in a suit washing their hands, being like, oh god, that might cost me a future. Whoops. Sacrifices. These are the sacrifices we make.
Yeah.
It was volcanic.
Minimum wage.
It felt like someone was shoving hot coals up my asshole that entire week. And meanwhile, I'm complaining about this, and the guy with the catheter is still in him, was looking at me like, really? Really? And even so this poor bastard, the one night he fucks up and he doesn't notice his commercial break, happens to put Cars for Kids followed by the breast cancer walk. Mind you, the PD of that station lost his first wife to breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
That was the night that the PD was listening. Mm-hmm. I managed to do mashups of like Tool and AC/DC and like at like 1 a.m. Nobody noticed. I'm like, oh, I dodged that bullet.
Right.
I even fucked up the EAS thing. And like we had the
I hated that. I hated that shit.
Yeah, KAF. And I just got in a car accident. And as I'm like hobbling out of my car, I'm on the phone with Carrie. Like, I did what now? Yeah, I never learned that shit. Hold on, I'm bleeding from my head. I'll put you on hold. Yep. So, it's one of those things. I fucked up plenty in radio, plenty.
Sure.
But especially because I had to do Loveline too. And like, I had to like re-educate myself. I'm like, what are the curse words they're allowed to use? Because he just said dick on the radio. Was I supposed to edit that out?
Oh yeah. Well, that was, those were that's like the paid programming shit, right? I mean, you guys, that was owned by somebody else and you guys were just broadcasting it. We have a bunch of those. I mean, we still do Alice Cooper on Saturday nights, and that's my philosophy on that was that's their fucking responsibility to dump their own shit. One of the board ops back when O&A were on BCN back right before the Sports Hub flipped would say the same thing. He's like, I don't know if I can let that fly. I'm like, that's their fucking dump guy's responsibility. You just got to pot it up, man. Of course, this is me telling him that. I don't even work for the station. She's like, yeah, why don't you get fired? Because that will be 5 extra hours I could pick up.
And
that
was the
is
worst.
Radio.
And again, being that I am who I am, if you've read my Facebook or you know me and Jason knows me, I'm just a huge sap. So sure. Mike FM, I used to babysit 2 stations simultaneously. I would have to program AAF and Mike FM at the same time.
You get paid twice for that, though, right?
No, of course not. Why would I? Why would I? I even had an incident where there was a staff member who they called Horseshack because he looked like the fucking kid from Welcome Back Kotter. And we just called it like, oh, it's Horseshack. Decided, I don't know how to do contesting. I'm just not going to do it. I had over 15 ticket giveaways to do because he didn't do them. So I'm on Facebook friendly like, who wants free tickets to Def Leppard?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You would think I was giving out free syringes with AIDS in them because I'm like, Def Leppard, Heart? And people are like, why would I want that? I'm like, because it's free.
You weren't friending enough 40-year-old women, obviously.
Apparently not. And like even the 40-year-old women I was offering to them, like, no, they're gone country. I'm like, it's free. So I had to give away all the tickets. Like that's the equivalent of what we had. So
right
on Boston.com the night before it happened. So essentially Mike's company was kicking our ass. And my station decided, let's get rid of the cluster that we had, the most successful. Let's get rid of that and turn that into the AM sports station on the FM side and get rid of that station. All of my friends who are working in that particular station found out on Boston.com the night before they were being laid off.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's radio. You don't
that's
find
radio.
out. Yeah,
the nicest conversation I've had was with the program director, who I will not name, sweet guy, really nice guy, terrified, but nice guy, calls me and goes, and that was the only conversation I ever had with him. He was like, and mind you, the first interaction I had with this guy before was in Carrie's office and he was programming, she was on the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to do like the nervous like 22-year-old guy thing where I'm like, oh, you're the PD, like my name's Eddie, and I went to go shake his hand, and like he didn't give a shit who I was, so
you
he
got to
just
take
kind
the
of
opposite approach. Well, again, we're apples and oranges. I'm 6'3", 250, so walking into a PD's office there's a different atmosphere when I walk in.
Well, this guy
that's how
like,
I got the job on one of the morning shows, the one that Mike actually works for now. Mike Morgan works for now. I did a year and a half with them because literally the job opened up and for one of their producers, and I went downstairs to the PD's office. I was wearing my black Adidas pants that I normally wear. I had a Hooters T-shirt on, and it was about halfway through the Bruins playoff beard with a ponytail. I looked basically like the Undertaker, kind of like actually Eddie, what you kind of look like now, just 6'3", 250, looking like that. And walked in.
You bastard! Rub it.
I can't help the genetics. And so I walk into his office and I just kind of lean over his desk and I go, "So here you got an opening on your morning show?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "All right, I'll be here Wednesday." And I sat there and waited for his answer. And he goes, and he literally looks up. He goes, "I'm J-Bo." I go, "Hi, I'm Mike. I'll be here Wednesday." "Okay, good to meet you." And that's how I got a job.
Okay, so his story versus mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Scrawny, 130-pound, 5'10" guy. PD shorter than me. And I go up and I go to shake his hand, and he kind of reaches his hand over his shoulder like he doesn't give a fuck, like a limp fish.
Oh, is that Jason?
What?
No, not you, Jason, but was the PD Jason?
No. This is a guy named Ron.
Oh, okay. Oh, no.
And I go to reach for his hand.
Jason was a small guy, too.
And I'm kind of like, like curtsy. I went curtsy on his ass, Mike.
Jesus, man.
And as a joke, because he kind of gave me like the tips of his fingers, I bent down and went, "Charmed." And he just kind of looked at me and like he gave me this look like, "Why are you in this building?" Right? Mind you, I was wearing a New Kids on the Block t-shirt. So I was like, all around, I am the gayest guy at AAF right now.
Wow.
Everything hurts on the inside. And the funny thing is I have no problem admitting that I think Greg Hill is a fat fucking asshole. LB surprised the shit out of me. I was sitting and I was basically just like doing show prep for Carrie and whatever, like not doing show prep for Carrie and like listening to the new Depeche Mode song. And LB comes in and just sits down and like, "Oh, this guy's such a fucking dick. I can't stand him." Like he
Depeche
just comes
Mode,
here.
yeah, I hate him.
And this guy just turned his seat at me, looks at me, he goes, "You're an intern, right?" I go, "Yeah." He's like, "Don't you fucking hate?" And he starts pulling like a Jerry Seinfeld thing, like, "What's the deal with emails?" And he's just like rambling on about like his email account. And then he just looks at you, he just stands up and he goes, "Hey, brother, you're going to go real far here. You're a real nice kid. You'll listen." And then he just walks away. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? What just happened to me? I'm wearing a Lady Gaga shirt. Why was he talking to me?
Because you're wearing a Lady Gaga shirt. Okay. He's like, "This guy's interesting. I want to know his story."
And that was the catalyst for why Lenny Clark on Mike FM during one of the charity shows kept calling me Eddie Gaga, because Mike Morgan and this girl Bree, that was my nickname apparently, because I was into Lady Gaga. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna call him Eddie Gaga." That was my claim to fame in radio, was Lenny Clark was giving me shit because everybody kept calling me Eddie Gaga. He was like, "Who the hell is Eddie Gaga?"
I mean, there's worse things that could happen in life. And there's worse people that could definitely give you shit than Lenny Clark. That's actually pretty good.
I know. I believe me. Like when my dad was around, like I left the house and he turns on the radio. I was like, "Eddie's going to be on here soon." My mom's like, "He just left." My dad's like, "No, he's going to be on there. You listen, he's going to be on here." As soon as he heard that, he's like, perfect Red Foreman when Eric comes out of the room wearing the comforter.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
"Kitty, that's our son. Bare ass holding a baseball bat.
Yep.
It's your son, Kitty." My dad's exact response when Lenny Clark was like, "Eddie Gaga, who is this kid?" My dad was like, "That's our son, Tam.
That's our son.
That's Eddie Gaga." I was like, you know what? There are worse things to be remembered for.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of I like the fact that I also do the restaurant show, not just the TV, but also we do our Sunday morning radio show with Pat Whitley, because that's something my mom can actually listen to, and it's as clean as fucking clean can get. Because I mean, and Jason, I swear we'll get to WrestleMania in a second. My very first first time I ever was on radio, it was my first job was promotions over at Entercom, actually, and I was driving the truck to Gillette for the home opener with EEI, And the Big O was doing the afternoon show, and he had Smurlus, DiAussie, their Harleys, their cigars. The sausage guy was there. Everybody's drinking beers. It's having a good time. They had a little satellite studio right outside the Gillette, and they called me in, and we're having, just eating. Sausage guy had all this spread put out, and we're all eating, good times, just having a couple beers, cigars, etc. And all of a sudden, they start doing a break, and they turn around to me, and of course, the sausage guy, sponsoring and all that stuff. So they're pumping him up, and they go, "Hey, Mike, what do you think of that sausage?" Now, I had just seen the back of his shirt, so I literally quoted the back of the sausage guy's T-shirt, and whoever just chuckled has seen the back of his shirt, because I lean over to the microphone and I go, "Well, I'll tell you, Glenn, it's the best 10 inches has been in my mouth this week." And I leaned back, and they told me to leave the room. That was the first thing I did, and it went downhill from there for the next 10 years.
One EEI story I will say before we get to WrestleMania, just bridge the gap here. So obviously we had a section where we all went to smoke, and there was this guy Mike, awesome dude. I don't know his name, but his name is Mike. He's got a beard, and he's on EEI. It's not you. This other guy Mike came down, and he's smoking a cigarette, and I used to always see him when I'd go smoke a cigarette. This other guy Mike Branger40, who is awesome. We do smoking cigarettes. He's like, "All right, I gotta cut out, Eddie. Can you take care of the rest of my show? My cat's a diabetic." That was the first time I learned that animals could be diabetic. So I'm just like, okay, that sounds kind of serious. Sure, cut out. New Kids on the Block shirt and everything. I'm out there smoking a cigarette, and this guy Mike comes out, and he does something for EI. He was like a host of a show. This is how well I paid attention at my job. Right. And he comes out, and he was like, "Hi, how you doing, young blood?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is what it is. It's a job." It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What are you, the overnight guy?" I go, "Yeah, I'm the overnight guy." He goes, "You know how I used to get through those shifts? A lot of blow."
Oh, really? It was Mike Adams.
Like, yep.
Mike Adams. Yeah. Oh, he's a great guy. I love him.
Awesome guy, but he comes out, he's like, "Young blood, a lot of blow. And he's talking for like 20 minutes about all this coke he used to do. And then he looks at me, he's like, "Oh shit, I'm late for my show. By the way, young blood, you have any coke?" And I just kind of look up, I'm like, "I don't." He was like, "You might want to invest in some." And then he just leaves. And I'm just like,
"That's how you get ahead in this business, kid."
I was like, okay, so apparently my name is Young Blood, and I need to do coke. It never happened. There were a lot of Doritos, though. So
yeah,
Jason, get us back on point. WrestleMania.
Yeah. All right. I will be quiet for the next 10 seconds. Eddie, I would suggest the same thing. Jason, reset the show, as they say.
All right. From one train wreck to another, let's go to WrestleMania.
Oh, it's
not if this is radio,
bad.
excellent segue. Excellent segue.
It's not
just to see
that
bad. It's not that bad. But let's just run through this card match by match. We'll start off with the rebirth almost of Sunday Night Heat, because USA is going to be airing the pre-show this year.
Okay,
2 hours, right?
I think it's one. I think
they get one and the network gets one.
Yeah, I think it starts off on the network for around 5, and then it's like simulcast deal, like where USA.
Okay,
I think I could be wrong.
I would assume the network's going to have both hours.
Yeah. I do have to ask you though, just because this was like a bullet point in my notes, and yes, I made notes because I still am a radio loser. Now, a question for you guys is, going into this Mania, A, where's the fucking star power? B, I don't agree with the booking at all for most of this stuff. Getting ESPN and USA and all these constituents involved, if you will.
Right.
Is this showing desperation on WWE's end in terms of making this more of an event? Because arguably, there have been WrestleManias that were much bigger on paper and much bigger in spectacle. And I feel like they're really pulling out the big guns for this particular Mania. Is this due to like just the thinning roster in terms of injuries and in terms of lack of star power? Like, in your opinion, why this WrestleMania? Because it's not a landmark WrestleMania. It's not WrestleMania 30. It's not WrestleMania 20. Why now are they kind of doing, like, as Jason put, like the Sunday Night Heat thing, or Coach coming in and covering it? Like, did that ever click with either of you guys?
Well, not really, because I feel the USA thing is coming together because they reworked their deal last year, I believe, when they brought SmackDown over. So I'm guessing this was probably part of that they would pick up probably the WrestleMania. I'm guessing they'll probably do the SummerSlam pre-show as well. I'm guessing that was part of that deal. I think that's less desperation. The ESPN thing, about a year or two ago, and I can only talk to this because of my own knowledge of their PR department. They made a giant push for all the legitimate sports networks. That's why you're seeing Fox coverage. You're seeing Nesson do a blog. You're seeing ESPN cover it with the coach. And the coach was just an easy segue. One thing had really nothing to do with the other, but they're buying the time.
I do have to ask you
it's a
on
paid
that.
spot.
With John Cena doing the Fox show, is that part of the agreement, do you think?
It's part of the promotion, definitely. One helps the other because, despite what, real mainstream media would like to think, WrestleMania is it's a thing. It's a big deal. It's, it's the one time a year that non-wrestling fans, I mean, even back before the network, non-wrestling fans would plunk down $70, $80 for the pay-per-view. I'd see people on Facebook that I know didn't watch wrestling, and they'd be posting pictures of their TV when WrestleMania was starting. It's like, and it was the actual thing. It wasn't even one of those bootleg stream sites. It's like, Jesus, you paid $80. You don't watch wrestling, dude. You know what I mean? So now with the network being $10, they got to do the full court press. So that's why they bought the paid sponsorship with Sports Center. That's why they're really pushing for the mainstream. That's why you don't hear the interviews on the Mike Wendt show as much as you used to. Unless your name is Sam Roberts, you're not getting a lot of podcast type of interviews.
I do have to ask you though, because obviously I've known you Facebook, like social media wise, for a while, and we're friendly with each other.
Sure.
And I would always say to Jason, like, you're having such a difficult time, and this is how you came up in the conversation. I said, I know this guy Mike Wendt, don't personally know him, but know him enough that he hasn't defriended me yet.
Right.
And he's got interviews with like Roman Reigns, and did you guys do an interview with Natalia? I think even
we did. We had a good run for a while. I mean, it doesn't suck when your very first interview is Paul Heyman.
So I had to ask you, like, how did you pull that off? Because a part of me was kind of like, well, he's on radio still, so he's probably got the contacts. But I was looking at Jason. I'm like,
it started because the way I built, basically, the ultimate way was I built a relationship with one of their PR guys at WWE. But it started. We got our first Paul Heyman one before WrestleMania 29, I believe. It was, I want to say, Lesnar and Triple H. Mm-hmm. And Triple H's career was on the line. It was that interview, and that happened because Carlson and McKenzie passed on Paul Heyman, and we just happened. And I am friends with their old producer Braden, and Braden knew that me and Billy were doing the show. We had been doing it for, I think at that point, 6 months or so, and he was like, he's like, hey, we got this opportunity for Paul Heyman. We're not going to take him, but do you guys want him? And he passed along the email. I sent their guy an email. They accepted. We did the thing. He liked it. And then all of a sudden they started putting our interviews on ZLX.com, the website. So that was kind of, it added for our interviews. That's why one of the things we did in our interviews was we never cursed in our interviews. The rest of the hour, we were cursing up a storm. But during those, we kind of kept it, for lack of a better term, professional, because we knew that they were going to be put on the WZLX website. And that was adding our, relationship with them. And I still have I was actually emailing him last week, the same PR guy, and it just so happened that I was a little bit too late. I was like, do you have any? I was trying to get an interview this week, and he's like, this is complete no-fly zone. They're already in Dallas. They're already doing their thing. Everything's already taped for SmackDown, all that shit. So if I had done it 2 weeks ago, I might have actually been able to get somebody, just because it's relationship building, it's networking, that sort of shit. But yeah, that was how the Paul Heyman thing came about, and then just month after month, you just send an email with enough time before back then the pay-per-views, and you'd see who they got. We had, like you said, Natalia, we had Roman on 3 times. Rollins, Ambrose shut down the ZLX website for a day because I asked him about the Titty Master thing.
I do have to, like, a personal question though, because obviously Jason and I are big fans, and whatever, like, you have, as they say in the industry, Mike has pipes. Like, if you're listening to Mike right now, like, you can tell the legitimate radio talent versus the ones who really, one was fledgling and the other was kind of like, nah.
Oh, ain't you sweet.
I like to kiss a lot of ass on this show when we get a good guest. So,
Thanks.
But
I'll take
that's the professionalism in me. But Mike's like a consummate professional. Did you ever get like super nervous, like knowing, because I know with Jason and I, like when you thought
like, Gangrel was going to answer your tweet,
when we thought
and never returned it.
He just responded hashtag fanging and banging.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
When we thought we had that, like, I got nervous, and like Jason and I did like the professional thing, like we did like a 10-question thing, and we were sending questions back and forth, like, what are we gonna ask this guy? Like, what hasn't yet been asked before? Did you ever have like a process with like when you knew you were gonna interview these people? Did you ever get like a little nervous? Because at the end of the day, you're still a fan, and that's the thing. Like,
yeah, absolutely. The very first interview with Paul Heyman, I was deathly nervous. I watched that the Rise and Fall of ECW probably 5 times before I did an interview with them. I had Billy, who was very active on Reddit. He would go to Reddit and print out a bunch of questions, most of them including Batista's dick. But we would come to the table with a good 30 some odd questions, just kind of weed out the good ones, and weed out the bad ones and take the good one type of thing. Plus, it was, I mean, I grew the way I got in. The reason I got into radio was I was like a fan of O&A. That was who I listened to especially when I was in broadcasting school. When I was doing a Connecticut School of Broadcasting, I would listen to them on my commute out to Newton, and their style of radio helped a lot because it gave we didn't come in. I for lack of a better term, we weren't pushing the fanboy button too hard.
Right.
Like we talked to Cody Rhodes, but we didn't talk to him too much about the event coming up. We'd plug it because that was the job, but we would talk to him about growing up with Dusty and having Thanksgiving with the Four Horsemen, shit like that. We talked to Roman Reigns about, shutting down a sushi bar with the Shield and in Japan and shit like that. And like I said, Dean Ambrose, Titty Master, who, I mean, that's something that even WWE hasn't acknowledged. You know what I mean? So you talk to them on that personal, like you would anybody else type of basis. And yeah, absolutely. In the back of your head, you're sitting there being like, is this, it's one of those, you like David at the dentist. Is this real life?
Yeah.
And it's no different than, I mean, even on Wicked Bites, I've done it a couple times. I mean, I sat down at a liquor store with Dan Aykroyd, and while in the back of my head, I'm saying, like, you're a Ghostbuster, you're a Blues Brother, holy shit, you're Dan fucking Aykroyd. On camera, I had to play like, he's my equal, no big deal. We're sitting here side by side. But in the back of my head, I'm a nervous wreck. Absolutely.
Well, no, I had to ask that because, for example, like, not to kiss your ass too much. I don't want to give you too big of a head. But like when Jason was like, oh, we're doing a show with Mike Wendt, I'm like, what? Like, how many bourbon and cokes do I have to have before we do this? Because in my mind, like, I don't get caught up in celebrity at all. Because it's like, to me, it was like when I met Gary Sharon, and you'll laugh at this because, for lack of a better word, you're kind of a townie. Like, you're a Massachusetts guy. Like, that's kind of your job when you do Wicked Bites, and when you do a radio show, you're kind of a townie. Right. So if, like, I remember putting a Facebook post, like, I just met Gary Sharon, and like Big Jim was like, did you meet him at the Starbucks in Malden? Like, yeah. And it kind of like downplaying him, like, dude, when I was in 10th grade, like, play with me, like, more than words, like, bands are unite. Like, I fucking love Extreme. Like, when I met the guy, he was like, oh, what's your name? I'm like, oh, I'm Eddie. And I'm like, I know who you are. And I was just like, you fucking idiot. Like, what'd you do? But like, to me, it was like radio personalities, because they're local and you've just heard them every day. You're just kind of like, you meet like Big Jim or Mr. Scary, you're like, holy fuck. But when you meet a wrestler, it's kind of like, when I went to Kowloon, I met Mick Foley. It wasn't as intimidating because I'm like, you're an idol of mine. But at the same, he was more human, because when you see him kind of, for lack of a better phrase, he was kind of hobbling on stage. Like, all right, like, this is a guy that wears, his profession in his body, like in his, body motions. Like, you can kind of humanize with that, because it's like, he had a job. I mean, granted, he didn't work in a fucking thrift store, but like, he got thrown off a fucking cell.
He dresses.
Oh yeah, he looks like any of our, and that was the one thing that like the MC had mentioned, is like, oh, great, Mick Foley comedy show, and everybody here looks like Mick Foley. Right. And my wife looks at me and is like, I wonder if he's going to mention you look like Daniel Bryan. And like, I'm kind of like, ha ha ha. But at the same time, like, I hope he does. Like, oh, sure. It was one of those things where I'm like, it's still kind of hero worship, but at the same time, like, you know what though? He's still human. So it's like when I listen to your interviews with him, like I could hear that. I'm just like, how the fuck are me and Jason like? Why were we so nervous about Gangrel? Because like obviously I'm not downplaying his career, but it was kind of like to throw shade at Gangrel was like, dude, like you you are big in the Attitude Era, but it's like, dude, like that's. I feel like that's an unspoken thing, and like one of my favorite.
Okay, yeah, I even have better than that. I think it's cool that I've had like private chat conversations with Pete Gas. I think that's the coolest freaking thing. Okay, so you're not alone at the Gangrel thing. I absolutely like. I've chatted with him back and forth, and when he's writing a book or something like that about his experience in WWE, and I'm like, absolutely, do when your book comes out, let me know. We'll do something. We'll put something together. We'll do an interview or whatever. And I'm like, I'm chatting with Pete Gas here, man. That's fucking awesome. And it's Pete Gas. I mean, come on, dude.
I guess why I'm bringing it up is because for me, like the big
there's nothing
thing,
wrong with it.
Well, I don't know about Jason, but for like me, like, when I kept bugging him, like, dude, Mike Wendt. Like, dude, CLX, like, I know this guy. I'm a bigger fanboy for radio people, mainly just because I'm like, oh my God, like, this is what I grew up in. But with wrestlers, it's kind of like, you feel the same way, but at the same time, you're just kind of like, you can kind of talk shop with them and you can kind of like, like Pete Gas. If I had a back and forth with him, I'd probably be like, shit. Like, I remember years ago, a buddy of mine, Sean, had an XFL cheerleader's screen name. And I'm like trying to chat with her. And I'm getting shy through it. And Sean's like, how did you fuck that up? I'm like, she's an XFL cheerleader. The older I get, the more I'm kind of like, yeah, like it's cool. Like I was at FNX.
She's an XFL cheerleader on the weekends. She's a score stripper on the weekdays.
But I mean, like it's one of those things where there's like kind of like there's a nervous respect there because you're like,
sure,
you want to hear their stories. And like that's my big thing with wrestlers is like I remember watching I think I told Jason like the Just Incredible like interview that he did in some dude's basement because you could tell
that it was terrible, wasn't it? That guy is probably the worst interviewer ever.
You know what I like?
Interjecting his own thoughts on something, and I was just like, dude, shut the fuck up. Let Just Incredible talk.
Yeah, especially when he was talking about the plane ride with the Undertaker giving him the acid. I'm like, dude, do you realize if I had anybody who was that, and hence that's why I was kind of like bummed about the Gangrel thing. So I'm like, any way to humanize the Undertaker as Mark Calloway, like Mark Calloway did acid, like the story when Kevin Nash was like, yeah, we were told not to go to the strip club, and I see Undertaker sitting across the room, and he kind of just like holds up his hand, like, yeah, I acknowledge you, like. To me, that's like the big one is like when you find like these mystical wrestlers like the Undertaker and it's like, oh my God, he loves strippers. Like that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. So it's like, I feel like a part of me like would kind of mark out in certain interviews for questions like that. But otherwise, like, I think that's why I kind of like the Steve Austin podcast. Cause like when he's not under the leash of WWE, when he does like a genuinely good podcast, it just sounds like a bunch of dudes sitting in a room like, oh yeah, let me tell you about this story from like 10 years ago, or like the plane ride from hell.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down, my favorite stories are the plane ride from hell stories.
Absolutely.
I would love that to be like a 30 for 30 documentary someday.
Oh my God,
they would
me.
Never.
I want that.
They would never do it, but I think that would be amazing.
I want that to be a motion picture, the plane ride from hell. Are you kidding me? Like legitimately, like I was even thinking like when the Fabulous Freebirds go into the Hall of Fame, like is somebody gonna be the asshole that brings up that X-Pac cut off Michael Hayes' ponytail? Can someone please talk about this?
It would have to be Michael Hayes. I mean, he it's like I was just about to say the same thing. He almost has to do a wink and a nod to X-Pac in his acceptance speech.
Right.
I mean, if Mr. T can thank his mother about 47,000 times, Michael Hayes can take 2 seconds to wink and nod at X-Pac.
Could we please talk about how awkward it was for Kane to come out and like remind him, like, dude, like the Dave Chappelle thing, like wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
It was rough, but it had to happen. I mean, he wasn't going to stop.
Not to like jump from Mania, but like Hall of Fame. Like
we haven't even started yet.
You know what? Shut up. I have to pull the Vince McMahon. Shut up.
Shut up.
Hall of Fame. I do have to ask you guys. Are you like both of you as wrestling fans, like as we are, like how do we feel? Like Boss Man, totally excited that he's getting inducted, but like how do we feel about the collective?
I'm actually looking for the Hall of Fame. Their new website design is terrible.
Yeah, I hate
Not to go off topic a little bit, but I'm literally looking for the Hall of Fame thing, and I can't find it at this moment. I can, however, I can find that they've signed a multi-year partnership with Snapchat, so that's good to know.
Jason, this is my time to shine.
I guess
Go ahead.
Tout didn't work out.
I'll start scrolling, Eddie, and you tell us what you think.
Fabulous Freebirds.
Yep.
Okay, like that's cool. Like
long overdue.
Oh yeah.
Long overdue. I think the longer WWE waits to induct people, the more I'm kind of like, meh. Like, that could have happened like 5 years ago. Okay.
The wrong people are inducting him, or the wrong person rather.
Which one?
For the Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah.
Who's putting him in?
The New Day.
No.
Yeah. It's Texas, Dallas.
Wait a minute.
No, is it Austin?
That can't be.
Yeah.
It's got to be Austin, right?
No. It should be Von Erich. It should be.
I mean, it should be Von Erich, but it's got to be Austin, right?
No,
it It can't be the New Day.
It's the New Day because
Fuck
of
off.
3-man teams.
No, I get the reference. It makes zero sense. Yeah. Why can't I find this? Holy shit!
I mean, I'm sure they're going to be funny. They're not going to not come prepared, but still.
But it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Jacqueline's getting inducted by the Dudley Boys. I'm okay with it.
It makes little sense to me. I get that they're friends, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that she picked them, which I'm all for that. If it's their decision, like you can't imagine that Michael Hayes was like, yeah, we have to have the New Day, especially Michael Hayes picked the New Day to induct him. Okay, knowing what we know,
Mark Henry's doing it.
Knowing what we know about Michael Hayes,
if I had my way, X-Pac would induct them whilst brandishing Michael Hayes' cut off ponytail.
I would have Rosa Mendez do it.
It's the collective of X-Pac.
Who gets that reference? Let's tweet us if you get that reference. Rosa Mendez inducts the Freebirds. No, but I'm still fucking looking for it. Last year's highlights. I don't need last year's highlights. Jesus Christ. Okay, 2016. I finally found it. Okay.
Obviously, Sting. It makes sense, but I don't know, when there was the rumor on TMZ that he was going to announce his retirement at the Hall of Fame, like that made more sense. Now that he's saying like, no, I'm not retiring. It's kind of like,
wrestlers never retire. They'll never admit to retiring. Let's be honest. And none of them, I mean, unless you do whatever it called, the WWE 24 thing, which I almost cried on the train this morning watching Brian's thing. No shit. I didn't think I was, because I mean, even if you go back on the Mike and Billy show, I wasn't a big fan of the Brian character, but watching that, I was like, I get it. That sucks.
Well, I think that sucks because it would be the equivalent of any of us who, and not to get sad, but like finally, like we're busting our asses day and day at like a job we don't love. And then finally we get called up to the big leagues and we're told like, you get to do what you love for a living and you get to do it very well. And then I think for me, it was like, okay, he fucked up his neck. And then there's Connor dies, his father dies. Like every time that guy won a title, it just broke specifically like he won the WWE World Heavyweight and then he won the Intercontinental. It was like.
Technically, he retired as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion and the Intercontinental Champion. Technically, because he dropped both of them and never lost them.
But I remember asking Jason beforehand, like I remember like Facebooking him being like, do you think you're going to cry during his speech? And Jason's like, it's too soon to ask me that. And then like he messaged me, he's like, did you cry? I'm like, dude, we both were bawling like bitches. Cause it's just like,
oh, see, I didn't, but it was because my DVR cut off. Swear to God. And because of fucking Titus O'Neil, it took me an hour to find it online. They scrubbed it because they were trying to edit that.
I remember thinking that because when I watched it live, I'm like, something just happened. I told Jason, I'm like, dude, I think something just happened. He's like, no, I didn't see it. And then he's like, dude, Titus O'Neil just got suspended. I'm just like, I knew something happened because people were acting real fucking weird up on stage.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of him and his Twitter too. If he cares, I unfollowed him.
It's so weird. It's like nobody gave a shit about him and didn't want him on TV, and now this thing happens, and everybody's like, "We want him back." I'm like, I don't really miss.
He wasn't on. What are you missing exactly?
Yeah, I don't.
Anywho, sidetracking. Freebirds. Okay, now that I finally found the thing, Freebirds, love it. I really hope it's not the New Day inducting them. Not because I have anything against them. I actually as I said on, I don't know, Facebook or Twitter or one of the others last night, I finally jumped back on the New Day bandwagon. I was off for a while, but the La Cucaracha punctuated by a super kick to Alberto Del Rio. Yeah, you got me back. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
You know what actually made me a fan, believe it or not, and this is like the most like superficial, stupid thing, was the ride along on WWE Network.
Oh, they were disrespecting all the little Boston spots that Kofi wanted to go to.
Something about
They're
it.
like, this is a shithole. And he was bringing him to what, Anna's Taqueria. He's like, no, I came here in college. Like, dude, there's like a million better places to come. Like, no, but this is the place. I'm like, oh my God, I feel bad for him.
There was something about that I'm just like, I kind of like them. Just like when he was doing when Biggie was doing the split, and like, I'm just like, they're just like dudes. Like, they're just like, you know, you're going to.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's the best thing.
They just don't get it. They just like what they do. And like, what was it that smashed when he opened his trunk? Was that his Xbox? Like, I was trying to figure that out. When
it was actually.
And
he was pissed
he was like, when he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so like," for
he
some reason,
yelling at the cameraman.
For some god awful reason, I'm like, "Oh my God, like I like them now," because for some reason, I was just like, when it's like the Attitude Era, like the stars that I liked the most in the Attitude Era were the ones that weren't very gimmicky. They were just very like. They're just very real and just very personal. Like, yeah, this is just fucking who I am. And if I win a title, great. If I don't,
this also plays into my Roman Reigns theory. So let's put a pin in that for 2 seconds. But whatever it is, it doesn't mean they shouldn't be inducting the Freebirds.
No, absolutely not. Like I read the same thing. Like I may like them and I may be coming around to them, but I felt like someone else should be inducting them. I don't know. But like a faction like that. You know, it should always be someone more esteemed, because I feel like the New Day, they're on their way, but they're not quite there yet. Does that make sense to you guys? Like,
oh, absolutely. No, Ric Flair's doing Sting, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll be fine. Rick will talk for 2 hours. He'll probably cry, and then Sting will come out. All right, and the Godfather, he's got what, the APA doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I get it.
I get it.
They're the old-time guys, and I'm sure they hung out for hours and hours.
And Ron Simmons makes complete sense, and JBL on a personal level probably makes a hell of a lot of sense, knowing the Godfather. Yeah. Boss Man, who's inducting him?
Slick.
No shit.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
That's probably the greatest booking.
It's cool, but I don't know.
Is he going to bring the one-man gang? Oh, I'm sorry, Akeem out?
That'd be awesome, but.
Imagine Akeem in 2016 coming out on TV. Oh, wow. USA wouldn't air that one. Oh, yeah. The gang's still. Well, he's still under the one-man gang now. He went back to that gimmick.
Can we, for a second, I know it's like the most superficial aspect, but like the celebrity wing. Why Snoop Dogg?
I have a huge grudge right now because I broke the Snoop Dogg story and I got no credit for it.
I saw that. I tried to retreat you.
I appreciate it.
retreat.
Yeah, I tried to retreat you.
and all of a sudden, like I posted up because it was, you know, I wasn't like breaking anything. I literally got the same email that everybody else got. I just happened to screen cap it first, at least first on my timeline. And then literally like, what was it, 3-4 hours later, WWE was like, oh, we're breaking this story. I'm like, oh, come on, man.
No, every SE scoops and everything like that were like,
yeah,
look what we found.
I mean, but oh no, they gave Rolling Stone credit. Oh. That's who it was. Which, you know, understandable. They probably gave him some money to do that one, but come on.
Now I have to ask.
Throw a bone to the little guy.
If it wasn't Snoop Dogg, both Mike and Jason, if you at any point went, who should it have been? Because I don't think it should have been Snoop Dogg.
I mean, he has more appearances than most.
It's better than Regis Philbin, which is
that was the other rumored one, yeah.
Which is a lot better than what it's supposed. At least Snoop has done stuff with WWE and been around the product and is a fan of the product. I'm okay with
Rock.
That.
Well, his cousin is in the industry, and that was the one that kind of was like, nah.
Well, she's going to obviously induct him, right?
I would think so. I would hope.
I'm looking online.
It has to be, as long as they're on speaking terms. I would assume. Otherwise,
unless it's hologram Tupac, in which case that's a no contest.
Or Hollywood Hogan.
Supposedly, he's going to do her entrance on Sunday.
I'm sure he is. That would be awesome.
I think that'd be amazing.
And I have a bullet point on that once we get to WrestleMania too. Yeah, I'm okay with Snoop because I mean, he's like I said, he's got more appearances than fucking Drew Carey.
Well, I
mean,
think
let's
the
be
reason
honest. At least they can put a video package together for Snoop. They got Drew Carey running down to the Royal Rumble. That's it.
You know what bums me out is I think the reason I'm bummed out is because obviously if it's not going to be Andy Kaufman, the next one was.
I mean, absolutely.
I thought it was going to be Lemmy.
Yeah, that's actually. But the bitch that is, they can only do one dead guy.
And Jason,
Seriously.
Jason and I constantly have this argument because every year Jason, you can corroborate this. Every fucking year, Jason will be like, "Who are your Hall of Fame picks?" And I'll give them to him. He's like, "Eddie, they can only do like really one or two dead people a year." And I'm like, "Oh, come on, man!" Like,
I know. Tell me about it. Rick Rude's still not in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that would be my number one pick to get in there like next. So but yeah, I mean, Andy Kaufman makes a lot of sense, but again, dead.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also
they have to run through all the that's the bitch about like Andy Kaufman or Lemmy also now, because it's like they have to run through all the viable dead wrestlers before they get to a dead celebrity.
Right.
Now, the wrinkle in that is, I don't know if I tweeted it this morning. The people were posting pictures of the official Hall of Fame T-shirt, which has what's now called the WWE Legacy Award, and it has like a bunch of old legends. And the only name I remember off the top of my head, because I don't know if it's my Twitter open, was Luthez.
Yeah. So we're talking like 30s, 40s wrestlers, not 70s or 80s or anything.
Yeah, like the people
Stone
who
Age
originated wrestling. Yeah. So then there was like I want to say like 7, maybe 8 of them. So it's kind of like the technical awards for the Oscar. They're just going to kind of, and I mean, some of these guys I think were already in the Hall of Fame, so I'm not sure exactly what it is that they're doing, but it's on the shirt.
Because you said this, kind of like the Oscars, do you think that WWE should kind of do like an in memoriam thing? Like if they're not inducting somebody, should they acknowledge all the people that have been part of the WWE community or family in a sort of...
Yeah, it would. I would do it at WrestleMania. I would do a video package at WrestleMania, like that. The bitch of it is it's a bummer. And unfortunately, while it's the difference is the Oscars. How do I put this? The Oscars take place in the real world, and WWE is writing a television show based on entertainment. So
you know what though?
So if that gets put across the table, somebody's going to say, "Do we really want a bummer in the middle of our 4-hour spectacular?"
And the other part is they want to distance themselves from having anything to do with death in wrestling.
That's just it. Yeah, especially like bad deaths. You know what I mean? And that's the bitch of it. You can't do something like that and then leave somebody off.
Axel rotten off because
you know what I mean? And there's way too many drug overdoses and suicides for them to do shit like that. So
you know what I like about this topic, though? What I love about this topic is that it brings me to my next question. And again, I'm jumping ahead, but whatever.
Go on.
Triple H's entrance at this year's now he's in the main event and he's the champ.
Connect these dots because I'm
no,
I'm not seeing where you're going.
I'm not worried about it though.
Well, no, I'm just saying. So no, because we're talking about death and we're talking about why Lemmy's not in. Is Lemmy not in because could Triple H potentially, with his entrance in the main event as champion, could he potentially be doing a tribute to Lemmy?
He is. I mean, I haven't talked to Paul, but not this week anyway. But
son of a bitch! Like I know you're more legitimate than us, but
you don't get to call him Paul.
Of course I do. Look. When you get a blue check mark next to your Facebook account, okay, you can call him Paul. But no, he I wholeheartedly, and this is why I believe it. I think he's going to be the one that uses Sympathy for the Devil, that cover that they've keep talking about being the theme, because in all the promo packages they never use that song. And the only time I've heard it, and it was very faintly underneath, was promo packages for his match with Roman Reigns. So I believe it's going to kind of be what he's done in the past, where it's going to be that song first, and then he's going to do his big thing in the stage, and then it's going to switch to the game, and then he's going to walk down the ramp to his normal entrance theme. So yes, and the short answer is yes. I believe he's going to pay some kind of tribute to Lemmy.
Now I do have to ask you in terms of attire, because
I honestly don't know, Paul. So that's, I'm sorry. What's your question?
At this point with Paul,
yes.
If he were to come out, because when you come out as the Terminator, as Rock aptly pointed out last year, like nothing is kind of like off limits.
Well, he's done Conan and the Terminator so far, and I think both were pretty freaking awesome.
I thought they were corny, but I did like it. But could you see Triple H coming out in Lemmy's like trademark attire?
I mean, he already uses that cross.
No, this is when I ask a good question. Anytime anybody goes, that's when I feel like I'm like in broadcasting school. It's like, that's a good question.
No, I mean it's tough only because of what the attire is, and it needs to be removable very quick. And I don't believe Vince or the sponsors are going to allow swastikas on any of his apparel. So there's that too. Lemmy was kind of big into the World War II propaganda. You
know what though? If he came out to Born to Raise Hell from the Airhead soundtrack, I'd be satisfied.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me? Like if that's what Triple H comes out to, and it's never going to happen, if Triple H just simply came out to Born to Raise Hell,
and they could get Ice-T to do his part on that. He's still alive. Oh yeah.
Well, we're not inducting Ice-T yet.
We could induct Ice-T. He did an entrance theme.
He could
have inducted the Godfather. Imagine that.
Well, they're saving him for D'Lo Brown. So you know what, Mike? Let's not get too far ahead.
Don't even get me started on D'Lo Brown. We'll be here for a little bit while longer. Okay.
That's a new segment, Jason. Quote me on it. The Lowdown with Mike Wendt.
Yeah, man. So where were we? I think he'll do some kind of tribute to him. I don't know. I'm sure somehow something he puts together is going to be Lemmy-esque. I mean, they're in Texas. Lemmy wore a lot of cowboy hats. Probably something like that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know. That's a little weird, though. That's kind of like Skip Sheffield type stuff.
Oh, you Skip Sheffield. So should we go back to Mania now? Because
we haven't even finished the Hall of Fame yet. I mean, we got the scene stealer from No Holds Barred, Stan Hansen. Who's inducting Stan? Do you know, Jason?
Vader.
No shit. Even after the dick pic?
Oh, that's a good question.
You know what I love about this is that Vader isn't even in the Hall of Fame yet.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, it's kind of like.
Did you see that the table for three with him, Sting, and Paige?
Yeah.
How much was that? He was really pushing hard. None of them at the time it was filmed. None of them were in, but he was like really the one talking about the Hall of Fame. It's like, really, guy? I mean,
Well, I mean, let's be honest.
Even at that table, he's third in line.
Even if he didn't hold, like, that's the thing. He never held the strap. So it's like, if I never got to hold the gold, could I at least go in the Hall of Fame?
Not in this company, anyway.
Well, yeah, by this company, but that's what I mean. Like,
well, neither did Sting. Sting hasn't even won a fucking match.
He's okay with that because
he's wrestled twice. He's jobbed out both the bum.
3 matches, technically 4.
Really?
Because he had that thing on Raw.
I see that. It was already forgettable. My DVR probably cut it off.
He was supposed to wrestle Big Show, and then it turned into a tag match with him and Cena against Big Show and Seth.
Oh my God, I don't remember that.
The Forgotten. I imagine they won, or it ended in a disqualification. I think it ended in a disqualification.
It hit buffer time probably on my DVR. So Vader possibly pending dick pics. Jesus. I mean that'll be fine. I'm sure they knew each other
very early.
Yeah, I mean that's in the. I'm looking. Let's see.
I bet Godfather starts it off for the night.
Where does Joan London show up?
Ugh.
I mean, here's my okay. I have a gripe with this, and it's going to make me sound a little insensitive because of what they're doing with this. But those of us who watched or can go back on the network for $9.99 and watch the Ultimate Warrior's speech, his Hall of Fame speech. This idea for a award that he was talking about in his speech was for like the grip or the cameraman, the lighting guy, the pyro guy. Now I understand what they're doing is very nice, and yeah, I choked back a few tears on the Connor thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, year 2, it's manipulated more into this. I don't know, PR.
And the Joan London thing feels very heavy-handed with the Today Show. I mean, how many days has Cena been on that?
Yep.
You know, I mean, it wasn't. I didn't watch it, but I saw Instagrams at least of him and Nikki Bella at the desk. Were they hosting it?
Yeah, he did actually host today.
Oh my god!
So he must have been doing all week because I think he did it Monday too.
Well, what else is he doing? Really?
You know what bugs me about this was that Connor was a fan. He wasn't. This is the thing that becomes manipulative, and this is what CM Punk was kind of touching on, the be a star thing, was that if you're going to have a Warrior award, Connor was a fan. Like he was, honestly, you had tugged the heartstrings because he was a kid with a terminal illness, but he was a fan first.
Absolutely.
This is the equivalent of like if George Lucas gave this award, would he give it to the fan that wanted to see The Force Awakens right before he died, or is he going to give it to a celebrity who's going through it? I feel like this is WWE's golden opportunity to reach out to the WWE universe, as they coined it, to find fans that have gone through something horrible and have fought through it and like, okay,
I mean,
like, well,
you know, it's getting the Warriors family a payday.
Yeah.
You know, using his likeness, his name, having them appear and present the award. I mean, it's nice that they're at least, because he did. I'm assuming he signed a Legends contract. He was going to be an ambassador, wasn't he? Right before he died.
They never really specified the details, but
I'm sure this is their way of honoring that contract to a point. I don't know what the details were, but I'm sure it's how, you know, they're keeping them, you know, paid at least. So that's good, you know, because it does kind of suck. It's like, you know, the guy signs a contract and drops dead the next day.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Is the Warrior Award, like, as I mentioned before with Lemmy being a deceased celebrity inductee, is the Warrior Award a little too heavy-handed? Like, does it have to go? You know what I mean? Like, when I think of the Warrior Award, like, they gave it to Connor. Obviously, that was a good choice. But, like, couldn't they give it to people that are still, you know, they're giving it to Joan Lennon, but she's a celebrity. Could they give it to, like, just normal people who are just kind of fighting through something and, like, you're a warrior? Because that's in my mind, like that's kind of the whole idea is like, you know, if you're fighting in like poverty or famine or something, you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, they will, but they've also probably got some ties to one of the cancer foundations too, so it probably has to be something. Well, like that.
Susan E. Komen. I mean, obviously, like
and the funny thing, and I again, I'm trying not to sound too insensitive about this. I didn't know Joan London was sick.
Yeah, I'm not.
I wasn't up on her. I don't follow her on Twitter. I didn't know her thing. I don't read People Magazine.
Not to get super bummer right now. I only knew because she announced that she had cancer right before my dad died.
Sure.
So to me, it kind of hit home. Like there's a part of me that doesn't hate it because I
don't hate it. I feel that there's a lot of.
It's just too corporate to me.
Yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is
exactly.
that like
and it's a manipulation of what Warrior had intended this to be.
Right, exactly.
Not to be self-serving, but like Jason was at my dad's service. I quoted Warrior's speech when I eulogized my father.
Oh.
I just heard Mike go, oh. What makes me any less of a warrior than, say, Joan London? Other than her payroll or other than the fact that she can be on People Magazine. There's a lot of people that are on People Magazine who I'm never going to meet. You know, but they're also going to be.
To be honest, I think this year it should have gone to Bradley Cooper. Had a rough one. You know?
I'm just saying though, like I think that personally, like if you're going to acknowledge the universe, and they keep bringing it up in all their promos, find like a genuine fan who lost something or someone and just overcame something and be like, you know what, that's what When Warrior gave that speech, I think what resonated with me, especially when a friend broke the news to me when I wrote a whole thing about my dad, was like, dude, you don't want to go on WWE.com right now because your dad's dying and now your hero's dead. Is find people that can hear news like that and genuinely, like Arthur, for example, the DDP video guy.
Oh yeah.
That's my Warrior. If I had to pick, because you know what I mean? Like,
now, what was his deal? Because I know who he is. I know of him. I know he had a problem, but I don't know what it was. And I know DDP kind of fixed him, right?
Yeah.
He was a paratrooper in the Gulf War.
Sure.
And so many drops down, obviously, take toll on your knees. So he was essentially, I don't want to say handicapped, but like his knees were worthless and he couldn't use them. So he became like morbidly obese, and he discovered DDP yoga, and DDP yoga is essentially like, he had so many yoga instructors turn him away and be like, I can't fix you. So he reached out to DDP and again, Warrior Award. If DDP is not in the Hall of Fame, put him in there, because DDP yoga, honest to God, like, here's a guy that, like so many wrestlers we just talked about who succumbed to addiction and suicide and everything else. Here's a guy that actually was like, you know what? My wrestling career is over for what it's worth, but I'm actually doing something. Like, the whole reason why Jake the Snake...
You're talking about Diamond Dallas Page, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he will be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, like, in terms of
I think it would have been pretty heavy-handed to go 3 in a row with him. I mean, they had Jake, then they had Scott.
Now, in your opinion, though, how did that come across to you when they were in the same induction with Warrior? Did that seem like heavy-handed to you, or was it kind of like, you know what, this is kind of fucking awesome?
It had to happen. I think it had to happen because they probably, and this was probably something was tossed around in the room when the names came up. They were probably like, look, Paige is swearing that they're clean now. We can't guarantee they'll be clean tomorrow. So let's get them now. But I mean, I remember that was actually, so that was that the New Orleans one?
Yeah, 14.
Yep.
Yeah. So I remember we had Daniel Bryan actually on the show the week before WrestleMania. And we were talking to him about that. And at the time, I don't think Scott Hall had been announced yet, but Jake and Warrior were. And that was like the biggest topic of conversation for us, was he's like, I just don't know what the hell those two are going to say. He's like, as a fan, like he was giddy as a fan for Warrior's speech. And he's like, I watch his YouTube videos. I don't know what he's going to say, so, and then they added Scott to it. And it's like, holy shit, man. This is going to be one of those ones where it's either awesome or it's going to be a train wreck. And, it turned out well for them.
I'm a little pissed off, though, that because of Mr. T, that Scott Hall's speech was very succinct and just very he did have that in radio. They call it like the clip moment where
the bad guys thing.
Yeah.
Greatest line. Yeah. I mean, he that's all he had to say. And okay, he won.
Yeah,
that and the toothpick into the camera walking out. It's like, okay, he just won the night.
I think that's what made him going into the Hall of Fame more special than, say, Kevin Nash last year, was because there was something about when you go into any Hall of Fame, obviously like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, people can call it bullshit, but like when Nirvana went in, I mean, obviously as a fan and as a super fan for me, that was huge, but like, the way they presented it and the way they did it, it was different than like, I have two favorite bands, Guns N' Roses and Nirvana.
Yep.
Nirvana went in the right way. Guns N' Roses did not, obviously. Now they're going on a world tour, which I will be at, but whatever.
Oh, of course.
But there was something special about the way Kurt Cobain went in, because it's obviously he's not here, and obviously it's sad and it's a somber moment, but they just made the best of it.
Right.
For the WWE Hall of Fame, I think those are like the key moments when somebody who, there's bad blood and it was controversy and notoriety, but when they go in, it's just like they just have that one moment where they're just like, I fucked up, and I know I fucked up, but you know what? You can't be a fuck up forever. That was what made Scott Hall's so special, because you're just kind of like,
right.
I like how he ended that. Like, there's just something really cool. But I mean, I think that's why I put so much on the Hall of Fame, is that it's a moment for somebody who's getting in there to like really have their moment. And it honestly, for what it's worth, it does resonate for a calendar year because, like, obviously Warrior had his speech and his speech on Raw, but like as a fan, and I've been a super fan of Warrior since I was like 5, like, it devastated me when he died, but just we had those 2 great speeches by him. You know what I mean? If that's my selfish fan moment, I like when the performer goes up there and acknowledges, like, hey, I'm just a human being. Like, it could end tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, not to get like super sentimental. And I'm sure Jason's like, oh, here goes Eddie again. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I like that because at the end of the day, we're all still fans. And that's why I asked you that question about interviewing people because regardless of where the product goes, and I know we have a friend, Sean.
Yep.
It was basically like he quit the show because he was like, I hate wrestling. I hate everything about wrestling. I don't want any part of this.
He lost his smile.
Mike Wendt, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Wendt.
There you go.
Tell me a
like,
lie.
you know, but like, I love the fact that even the fans know, like, you know what? Regardless of what happens, you're always going to be a fan. It's, what was it? The blood's blood in, blood out. Like, WWE in, WWE out. Like, you're always going to be a fan of the product. And I feel like Hall of Fame is a reflection of Mania for that reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always felt, and as a fan, and I was, I always say that I've been a fan of WWE since I knew how to turn on television, and that's going 30 plus years now. And there's peaks and valleys. You know, some years you're super into it, and you go to every show, and you don't miss an episode of anything. I mean, in the Attitude Era, I would VCR tape Austin if he was on Regis. You know what I mean? That's how much in that era I was into it. But then there's also the new generation era where you don't miss the pay-per-views, but if you miss a Raw or 2, you don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? There's peaks and valleys in fandom, if you will. And
right,
I mean,
for that quote alone, that is Mike Wendt's quote. I'm inducting Mike Wendt into the Marks and Commentary Hall of Fame. For that simple reason, I'm just saying this because that sums up how much of a fan I was of wrestling. If you miss a Raw, who gives a shit?
Right.
I had so many VHS tapes.
Oh my God.
Going back to like Buried Alive to like Beware of Dog. When the lights went out, paid for that pay-per-view. When the lights went out and the power went out, I even taped the live wire when they even did a documentary and like, oh yeah, the lights went out because that's the fandom of WWE is just like, you know what? There are just certain eras where you're like, it resonates with you and it connects with you. But
and
then
you can't miss a single thing that they do.
Right.
It doesn't matter how obscure. Like I said, I mean, if I go into the attic, I still have a bunch of VHS tapes from the Attitude Era. I don't know what's on them. I know I taped them off TV, but I'm sure some of them still have stuff like Austin.
What's probably on them, my friend, is a lot of Stridex and energy drink ads.
Oh no! See, I was into video editing well into my younger days, so I would cut all commercials and fluff out.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I would not only would I tape the stuff, I would then go back and edit the shows, so cut out all the commercials, cut out all the JVC Kaboom Box rewind, fuck all that shit.
I'm sorry.
I just saw it 20 minutes ago.
Jason, welcome another nerd, because I couldn't do it. Like, there's a part of me that's so nostalgic that I remember going to a bootlegger for Nirvana's Live and Loud 93 concert on New Year's Eve.
Sure.
And they were like, "Do you want it with or without commercials?" I'm like, with.
Well, that's the thing.
Like,
now.
I see like the old, like Pizza Hut.
Yeah, dude. In 2016, in hindsight, I wish I had kept the commercials for nostalgia's sake. But back then, you know, it was like, fucking, I just got to get through this. You know, it's a 6-hour tape, and I can only fit so much on there. You know, and I got to get Sable on fucking the Today Show.
Well, I do have to ask you then. I mean, and we're still talking about Hall of Fame, but nostalgia in terms of, and fuck it, Jason. Whatever, edit the shit out of this. That's your job now.
Yeah, I mean, you can cut all our radio bullshit out or just make it a second episode because, We're going to give you a good wrestling show at this point.
I got to ask you for nostalgia's sake.
Plus,
how does nostalgia play into pop culture in terms of the now? Like, technically, Jason and I are part of the millennials. I mean, you're probably at the tail end of that. You're probably like partial millennial, partial.
No, I actually saw a graph that told me I was actually part of Generation X.
Okay.
And we were right before the millennials. So I think I don't remember the exact thing, but it was on Facebook, and as we know, everything on Facebook is gospel. So
it must be legit.
Yeah, I mean, it was somebody did a study, science.
Equations.
They made a graph. It was a nice little pie chart. I was happy with it.
That was all I learned in science class in 8th grade.
Yeah, how to make
pie charts. I know pie charts.
So
now, in terms of nostalgia,
yeah,
how does that affect you in terms of pop culture now? Like in terms of wrestling, in terms of like, I know you haven't been too vocal about the Ghostbusters remake. I know I have been.
No, like, I was until my tweet got retweeted 10,000 times by a bunch of women's groups, and then Oscar from The Office called me an asshole on Twitter. So I just kind of shut the fuck up about it because I have jobs in media that I don't want to lose because I don't like that movie. And I made a joke about women. And it wasn't even about women. That's the thing. My joke was taken completely out of fucking context. The joke was, there was a picture of them in Boston on the set, and the 4 of them were standing there, and none of them were smiling. They had these resting bitch faces on. And the joke I made was, smile, ladies, you're ruining a classic. The joke was that they weren't.
I remember that. I remember I laughed so fucking hard when you posted it.
The joke was that they weren't smiling. All of a sudden, I'm getting people are tweeting me these blog posts about how if you tell a woman to smile, somehow in the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you're going to rape her. I swear to God, there was a blog. It was 3 paragraphs. It started with smile, honey. It ended with sexual assault on a train. I was reading it with my jaw agape. I didn't know what the fuck. And literally, it got tweeted thousands, tens of thousands of times by people that were fucking calling for my head. And of course, everybody else's head that were making fun of the movie. And then, yeah, Oscar from The Office jumps in on the thing and calls me an asshole. And I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? You're a comic. What, get it. So,
Jason,
yeah.
I just want to break this down right now.
But
this is the reason why.
To finish the Ghostbusters thing, real quick. To finish the Ghostbusters thing, I did watch. I've seen all the trailers, and my one comment, I posted it to Facebook. I think I posted it to Twitter as well, and it was as honest as I can be. The trailer that I watched was exactly what I expected it to be.
This is why Mike Wendt cannot be a permanent member of Marks on Commentary. These are the conversations we will have, because whatever I'm thinking Mike Wendt is saying right now.
Yeah.
And the really awful thing about that is there's nothing awful about it except the fact that we live in a politically correct society.
Dude, you wouldn't believe the amount of deleting I do, like writing out things on Facebook or Twitter and then reading it back and then just deleting the whole fucking thing happens easily a dozen times a day. It happened today. It happened today. There was a post on Barstool Sports about this 15-year-old at a Black Lives Matter protest and a Trump protest. They were going, it was a war games type of situation, and the 15-year-old girl was yelling at this guy accent and so many thoughts like, you're 15 years old. How bad has life really been?
Right.
Okay. She was, by the way, she was on the Black Lives Matter. He was on Trump's side. He was an immigrant on Trump's side, by the way. She was 15-year-old white girl on Black Lives Matter. And this is a wrestling show, so we're just going to push forward. Push forward here because.
But I do have to ask you.
That'll be another 2 hours of Jason editing.
Well, to connect this to wrestling, though, how much do you think that has affected the product?
I mean,
okay,
wrestling.
If this was 1997, the New Day would be Nation of a Domination, would they not?
Sure, absolutely. but it's a different time, and Bootios is hilarious. But it's weird because and I've heard wrestlers in interviews say this, that the WWE is in a bubble. It doesn't exist, and that's what I meant with the Oscars, that the Oscars exist in real life, in the real world, and WWE exists in its bubble. Like, it doesn't even exist with the rest of pro wrestling. Yeah. It's in its own separate bubble. And while pop culture sneaks in, and I think, speaking of the New Day, I think I want to say I made a comment tonight when I was recording my show that probably won't air because I lost the sun. But the New Day does a great job of dropping pop culture references without forcing pop culture references.
Oh, like, absolutely.
They make pop culture references like you and I would make in a bar. Whereas Michael Cole sits there and makes pop culture references like a shoehorn up your ass. Like, hey, Kardashians, right?
Agree with you. 100, I can't tell you the number of times my wife has looked at me and been like, that is so awkward. And I'll go, what do you mean? And she goes, you make pop culture references that I get, and even the ones I don't get, I laugh at because I don't know it's even a reference. It's just funny. But when he does it,
I'm in the minority that absolutely loves JBL as a commentator, because his 1930s references crack me up. Because he's sitting there with Michael Cole and Byron Saxton. Neither one of them get it. And
I do have to ask you this. It's a very personal question. I do have to ask you. Does your wife watch wrestling with you?
The thing is, our living room is it's connected, like it's divided by a wall, but her office, there's a window so she can see the TV. So she'll sit there and kind of watch. She likes Roman Reigns. She was
my wife, by the way.
This is mine.
Yeah. So she was a little pissed when I was he was a friend of the show and I couldn't get him to come to the wedding.
Oh my God, dude! Can I please explain this? Can I please explain?
She's yelling from the other room. She wanted him at the bachelorette party, not at the wedding. I see how it was.
Okay, so can I please explain to you?
She will, and she's watched WrestleMania with me. She actually sat and watched WrestleMania through, especially 30, I believe it was. It was 2 years ago. She fell asleep at the last year's one.
I have to tell you this because I was at Jason's house, and my wife looks at Jason's wife and goes, and it was during Roman Reigns, and it was long before the Roman Reigns Triple H rivalry, and she goes, those two guys would be excellent in bed. And Jason's wife like nodding and smiling, and I looked at them like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's like, nothing, honey. Like,
here's the thing,
housewives of the millennials, man.
Here's the thing, and I didn't talk about this when I recorded my show, and I was debating whether or not to bring it up. Did you guys see the interview / article with the Orlando Sentinel that Roman Reigns did, where he talked about WWE being a kids program, using those exact words?
I have not seen that one yet.
Okay, so basically, it was the common thread, and having talked to him on a number of occasions, I can kind of speak a little bit to this. The common theme for interviewers right now that get to talk to him talk about his negative reaction, the crowd's negative reaction to him. And what I feel is it's just getting annoying to him. And his response to this Orlando Sentinel interview was basically, it's a kid's show, and if you're a 30-year-old man flipping me off, that's your business. You paid your ticket. But just be careful because you're going to get your ass kicked out of the arena. I think he's just getting annoyed at this point with the question. And it was a little bit, I'm butchering his quote, but it was a little bit more of that. Like, he kept hammering home, we're a kid's product. Not that we're a PG product. We're a kid's product. We're geared towards kids. This is coming off of, ending Raw with the trademark in the corner and his bloody face on the full screen, by the way.
Right.
So I feel that he's being pressured by a number of different sides, partially PR, a lot from, probably Vince in the office trying to mold him into, and honestly, in my opinion, rush him into the face of the company. I mean, you got to think people are like, oh, he's the next John Cena. It's like, yeah, but John Cena's been here for 15 years. And John Cena went through the whole Doctor of Thugonomics. He was a heel. He did the Bill Buchanan experiment for a while. Then he got to Fruity Pebbles, Make-A-Wish, John Cena that we know now.
The fans made John Cena. Like, people forget that. Like, go back to... What's that?
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, go back to WrestleMania 21.
Yep.
Everybody was on his side. It wasn't until they got to probably the WrestleMania after that where it was Triple H, and it's like, yeah, you know what? It is fun booing John Cena. And then it just all kind of went away, and everybody hated him. And now it's almost kind of come back in vogue.
It has, and he gets that question too. But I think again, there's a lot more experience behind him at this point. I also think, especially with this new Forbes article that just came out, making $9.5 million a year, he has a lot of I don't give a fuck money, so he doesn't have to put up with the same shit that Roman has to put up with. But
can I interject here?
Yeah, go ahead.
And just say that
it's your show.
What I think would be super fun for the fans is that Roman Reigns, to my wife, to your wife, to Jason's wife, he's hot as fuck. Like,
sure.
I don't think my wife closes her eyes and thinks I'm fucking Roman Reigns, but when she's around other technically suburban wives, she's gonna say like, "Oh, he's fucking sexy." The WWE used to have this great ability to polarize their audience into like us versus them. If you could make it fun again for the fans, turn the housewives into Roman Reigns fans and turn the fucking anti-Roman Reigns fans into a guy like maybe Dean Ambrose or Bray Wyatt.
It kind of is. I mean, it's they don't have to turn anybody that way. That's how it is. I mean, that was the point that I forgot I was trying to make when I was telling the Orlando Sentinel story, was while he's sitting there hammering home that we're doing this for the kids and we're a kids show and kids. I mean, all you have to do is go to Twitter and put in hashtag Roman Reigns, and you'll see a bunch of anywhere from probably 15 to all the way 40-something-year-old women who are more his fans than the kids. The kids are still buying. The kids are buying New Day and John Cena shit. The girls are buying Roman Reigns shit.
What I love about this,
that
WWE hasn't picked up on is that, going back to music, the main thing that like Nirvana fans would say was like, before they broke, was like, girls loved Kurt Cobain, they loved Nirvana.
Right.
The guys in that era loved Alice in Chains and they loved Soundgarden. You know what I mean? Like they loved the like really dark, gritty, but like the girls were like, no, Kurt Cobain's like, he's like a post-up model. He's cute in like a really weird way.
Well, the grunge era was also a weird time, dude.
Well, I'm just saying though, but like it could be fun if like they decided like it's not a kids program. Like, for example, if you took your wife,
I think they are. And I have my own opinions about this, but I honestly believe that they are. We'll get to that once we finally start talking about WrestleMania.
I'm just saying that, like, if you took your wife, my wife, and Jason's wife,
right,
and you split the room down the center, and like they're not wrestling fans, but they put up with the man children that they're married to, and it's like a wrestling environment. Playfully, they'll look at us and be like, "I'd fuck Roman Reigns. He's hot."
Sure.
That's the division in the fans. Like, to me, that was like the Steve Austin versus Undertaker. Was you had the guys that were like really old school, like wrestling fans, like fucking Undertaker, he's gonna bury Austin's Texas ass. Mm-hmm. And you had the white suburban housewives. You're like, no, Austin's so adorable and he's so fuck authority and this and that. Why are we not playing up to that? And like maybe they are, but I feel like until like the three of our wives versus the three of us are in a room and we're watching Roman Reigns versus whoever the other like guy they're pushing is, like let's just say Bray Wyatt, for example.
Yep.
And we're all wearing Bray Wyatt shirts and they're all wearing Roman Reigns shirts. That is what will always be the essence and what makes wrestling fun. Because it's always, especially when you're married, because I guarantee the three of us are in really happy, healthy relationships. But we argue with our wives. We get in a fight with our wives. We try to play PlayStation or Xbox, and they're like, oh, come to bed. Well, I'm in the middle of this thing. You can make it a wider demographic if you appeal to the man in each every one of us and the housewife. And I don't mean to call him the housewife because obviously Mike's wife, for what it's worth, opened Wahlburgers as a DJ.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that on the radio or Mike saying that somewhere and being like, that's so cool. Like she's no offense to Mike. She doesn't need Mike. Like this woman is on her own, tough as nails, cool as fun. Like I don't even know her. Jason's wife is a fucking cop. My wife's a fucking nurse. That's what makes wrestling fun, is because Mike's wife, Jason's wife, my wife don't necessarily need us, but they love us. But they are gonna have their favorite. This goes back to Bret Hart versus Undertaker, SummerSlam '97, I believe.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that's what makes wrestling fun. Is like when you look at your wife and she's wearing the Bret Hart shirt or the Roman Reigns shirt, and we're sitting there with the Brock Lesnar shirt or the Undertaker shirt. Like, fuck you! Like my guy's gonna win. No, my guy's gonna win. He's hot as hell. That's the fun of wrestling, is it not? I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely, I agree 100%. The bitch of it is really, I would say that the only negative takeaway from that is you get crowds like you got Monday night.
Yeah.
That you can't. I mean, it doesn't matter how many women are in the crowd wearing a Roman Reigns shirt; they're not going to be heard. You know what I mean?
Because
that's just the generation we live in now, and that's exactly. Yeah. And every fan thinks he's CM Punk, exactly. And it's I don't know. It's kind of why, and that was a nice contrast I had with Billy, was because Billy was a wrestling fan. I'm a sports entertainment fan. Okay, I need to be told a story that leads up to a fight. You know, like you look at last month. Okay, Roadblock. As goofy as it was, why was there a Sami Zayn and Stardust match in that thing?
Exactly. It was a throwaway match.
Right. But that's the thing. It's like that, and that's why, and I hate being the guy who sits there like, your attitude error, because I am, but I don't want to be, because it's almost cliche at this point to be that guy. And people take it also the wrong way. People think when you say, you know, you talk about the attitude era, all you're talking about is, you know, tits and ass and excessive blood. But it's not. It was more, if you watch those shows, which are all available on the fucking network now, there was something they were telling a story for the entire 2 hours. There wasn't room for fluff. I mean, there was bad storytelling, trust me. It wasn't always A+ material, but there was something happening. Even in the throwaway matches, something would happen.
Now, you had posted an article, actually, not to interrupt you, but you had posted an article why we shouldn't boo the WWE era. Am I correct on this? Because I did read the article and I clicked on your link. You would actually. It
was a couple days ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was why we shouldn't take WWE so seriously, and it was along the same lines. Yeah, and it was a really well written by a guy at Bleacher Report, and it was exactly what I've been saying for years on the podcast and wherever else I could fucking talk about it. It's basically, you know, it's a TV show. Okay, the problem is that bubble, because while it's a TV show with entertainment, people don't look at it the same they would look at a Sons of Anarchy or a Sopranos, even though it should be. I mean, it would never, you know, it's not one of those things like it's I don't know. It's like it would never get nominated for an Emmy Award, okay? But it should be at least considered in that category. But instead, they're pushing more for an ESPY Award. You know what I mean?
Now, can I go this far as to say that, and I posted this on my Facebook last night. I'm sure people didn't get it, because if you're not a fan of Friends, you didn't get it. But I came out of Batman vs. Superman and thinking, and I know Jason saw it, and I think you saw it.
I'm seeing it on Sunday.
I won't say very much then.
Okay.
But I came out of it, and initially people were like, oh, fuck that movie. It's such a terrible movie. And I had the Joey Tribbiani from Friends thing, like, I like it. You know what I mean? Like when he's eating Rachel's pie, like, you know, Superman, good. Batman, good. Wonder Woman, good. I took it for what it was. It was entertainment.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
With WWE, I think the reason I kind of bitch is because you can't take entertainment that seriously. And I think the problem with WWE is they're taking entertainment too seriously to the point where they're finding a demographic and they're saying, okay, we want to appeal to this demographic, but you're ignoring the people. Like they're holding, we pride ourselves on parent or people or kids who become parents who,
family entertainment. And here's my problem with that is you have a show. Okay, your flagship show is on from 8 to 11 on a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to do a show that's on Saturday mornings, like they used to do when I was a kid, okay, there was Saturday and Sunday mornings. I mean, we're going back to the 80s now, Wrestling Challenge and Superstars, but they were on Saturday and Sunday mornings, at least early afternoons when kids were home in front of a TV. Now, in my opinion, and I'm not a parent, but I can't see that being good parenting, letting your kids stay up till 11:15 every Monday night.
Now, with what you just said, though, because we have 3 guys right now, Jason's not a parent, I'm not a parent, you're not a parent. It's a hypothetical question for both of you, but when we become parents, are our kids going to bed at 6 or 7 at night? And maybe that's even too late. This is the 90s parenting in me, but 6 or 7 at night. I remember not being able to watch Raw beginning to end until I was 13. You know what I mean? And at 13, like you're still a kid, but you're not totally cognizant of like the taboo-esque vision of like, all right, this is prime time TV.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can't really answer that because I wouldn't even know what a reasonable bedtime is anymore. But it's
I don't think anyone in radio can, Mike. Like, I mean, a reasonable bedtime for me is like 1 a.m. So it's like if I have like a little kid, am I like looking at them and like, you should be in bed at 7, or should I be like, you go to bed when daddy goes to bed? That's 2
you'll be sitting there with the kid next to you on the couch at like 11 o'clock at night, like, hey, are you tired, man?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, are you listening to Typo Negative, or are you watching like ECW? Like,
no, but it's also it's also a different generational thing because of stuff like DVRs. So you can be kids don't have to watch Monday Night Raw at that hour. So I guess if I was in the programming department of WWE, I would also look at that. So I'm also kind of playing devil's advocate to my own argument there. You know, where it's like, well, you know, because I'm sure they get those numbers. You know, how many families DVR? I mean, shit, I DVR 99% of the time. It's rare that I'm actually sitting there live watching Raw. As a matter of fact, when I'll usually start Raw because I get home about 8:30, 9 o'clock most nights, settle in, get something to eat, get something to drink, and then turn on the TV. And by the time I turn it on, it's usually about 9:30. So I'll backtrack. But when my DVR catches up, man, I mean, I've posted the GIF about 1,000 times of Elvis shooting the TV. That's how I feel when I have to watch a commercial. I mean, it's especially because you have to endure fucking Chrisley commercials every single break, dude. It's so DVR is also changing the TV game. But I don't know. I can't speak to what I guess I can't speak to what good parenting is because I'm not one. But I think that their mentality of alienating was that a toilet?
Eddie.
I had you on mute. I was peeing.
You know, I was making a point.
Yeah.
I was listening. You guys were on speakerphone. I was on mute until
I thought it was a good point too. I was being all serious about parenting and stuff. And now all I toilet, really. Wow. You know, I think that's probably the best. That's the best punctuation to that conversation. What do we feel about them alienating the older demographic in favor of strict family entertainment? Flush the toilet. There you go.
You know what, Mike? I've had a lot of Lemmys since we started this. So you know what? I can't help it if I have a weak bladder.
All right. So, where were we, Jason?
Well, there was a point where we were going to talk about the card.
Yes.
This Sunday.
Okay.
All right.
We have 15 pre-show matches to get through.
I know.
You know what? When it comes down to it, guys, let's not bullshit each other. Let's talk about the 2 matches that matter this Sunday.
Well,
let's do that.
Here's the thing. First of all, I want to say that I don't think I'm alone in thinking it's a fucking travesty that not only when they returned, I thought that by this point they would be champions, but at the latest they would get the championship at WrestleMania, and the Dudley Boys are on the pre-show.
That sucks.
I was guaranteed that they would get their 10th WWE title, 25th World Tag Team title at WrestleMania.
Let's be honest with each other right now as fans. Let's be honest.
They're not even in the title match.
How many of you guys? How many? All right, between the 2 of you, did you actually think we might have gotten a TLC match at WrestleMania with the Dudleys actually getting the titles? Because that's what I thought since August when they showed up. I was on my honeymoon when they made their Raw debut. I thought immediately TLC, Dudley Boys versus whoever's champion.
As soon as we got to what was the December pay-per-view? Was it TLC? Yeah. As soon as they had the ladder match, I was like, okay, this thing isn't happening at Mania because they burnt through the New Day. They substituted Lucha Dragons for Dudley Boys.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't thinking that far as stipulations, but I was guaranteeing myself that they were going to win the titles at WrestleMania. I mean, I think a TLC match between the Usos, the New Day, and the Dudleys would have tore the fucking house down.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know why they didn't do that.
I don't know.
You're short on your roster. You're short on talent. Don't get me wrong. I think the Dean Ambrose Brock Lesnar match, they're probably going to bring a lot to the table.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought whatever they lacked, they were going to make up for in the tag team division.
I mean,
which there's seriously a famine in the tag team division. But when you bring the Dudley Boys back, I thought that meant they were trying to pioneer the tag team division again. The Dudley Boys would do something at WrestleMania equivalent to what they did at WrestleMania 16 with the Hardys and Edge and Christian. And that would set the standard for what tag teams would do. And they're on the fucking pre-show?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Against the Usos.
But you know what? I don't think this is going to be as bad of a match as that people are kind of.
I think it'll be a good match.
Exactly.
I think it'll be. I mean, the Usos are an extremely talented team.
That's my point. If it's a good enough match, why not put that on the actual card?
Well, I actually have an argument for that. And it's because, and I've made that because we used to, again, me and Bill used to go round and round on this a million times because they would do stuff like that and they would put what could conceivably be a great match on the pre-show. Sometimes even the Intercontinental Championship match would be on a pre-show of a pay-per-view. And my argument only comes from just a professional background. You need people to watch that show.
No, and you know what?
You need a reason for them to tune into USA, especially now that it's on USA.
You can't just.
That's an awesome argument.
Because it was on the main card up until last week.
That's an awesome argument, but I think what nullifies that argument is why not make it spectacular? Unless, you know what? I haven't seen it yet, so I can't say this. And I still agree with you. If you put it on the pre-show, it still sells buy rates, and it's still, maybe if you see it on USA, you'll buy the network to see at least the pay-per-view. Do we think that could be a 5-star match just to sell the network? Because honestly, those are 2 very good tag teams. And like as Mike just pointed out, like, you know what? Like that could sell.
Yeah. I think it has. I mean, at this point, the network's been around for a couple of years now, and it's WrestleMania. You could have Eva Marie taking a shit on a snare drum, and it would be the same. They would still break box office records because
I'm so sorry, but
I know you were going to get that reference. I know. But it's WrestleMania. You don't need to like we said earlier on in this 2-hour broadcast here. People that don't watch wrestling will buy WrestleMania. So you don't need the pre-show to sell anything. What they
Jason,
need the pre-show to do is to get people to tune in to USA Network to prove to them that they're worth the next contract.
Jason, put 2 shirts up on Pro Wrestling Tees. I ain't farting on no snare drum. Dash, Mike Wendt, or Mike Wendt is my spirit. I will buy those shirts. I will be the only one to buy those shirts.
By the way, speaking of which, I was the only one that was very excited to see Eva Marie on Raw. I know that. Oh, yeah.
No, you weren't, dude. Like, when she came out, I looked at my wife and I was like, oh my God, it's Eva Marie. And she was like, who the fuck is that? I'm like, Total Divas.
Eva Marie is the best natural heel in the company.
But why is she playing a face?
She's not. That's the thing. That's the thing. And you're one of those people that thought that. They're not good actresses. That's the problem. But when she got in the ring and she started, and of course, Eva Marie makes the hot save, and because that's going to happen. She's going to take out Tamina and fucking and Naomi. That's going to happen anyway. Semantics. But when she went up to the other Total Divas and tried to give them a hug and raise their hands, Brie and Natalya and Paige were pushing her away. Yeah. Now they're not good actresses, not a single one of them, but they're trying to sell her as the untrustworthy person in the group.
Love that. She's fucking
playing
love
the
that.
same. I mean, she's because Summer Rae's not on Total Divas. She's the heel on that show, for lack of a better term.
Thank you. I was the only one that thought when they hit her music, I said, she is the heel to the babyface team.
Right. And I've said a lot of sarcastic shit tonight, but I honestly, and I've said it on Twitter, I've tweeted her many times, that she is the most natural heel in the fucking company. The people hate her. And finally, once they brought her back to NXT, she started playing that up. There was that time
I saw that on Raw. I marked out because I thought, dude. Yeah.
Finally, my thought was, as you know, it's let's curtail our emotions for a moment. It is Eva Marie in the Total Divas match on the pre-show, okay? But I gave them credit for at least doing something with that.
Sure.
It was showing a little bit of initiative that they held her back. They did their best to make it a surprise thing. I mean, they were in Brooklyn. It wasn't going to get over, but at least they did something. I mean, the names alone makes that match a stinker.
But how much
Total
is a
Divas versus Bad and Blonde with Lana doing every one of X-Pac's moves? I was waiting for the Bronco Buster, and she was setting up for it. Did you notice that?
I didn't see that.
Somebody botched something, because I forget who was roughing up Brie, but they had her down in the corner on that, like doing the sit-up position on the bottom turnbuckle, and Lana was revving up in the corner, and it was taking way too long, and the cameras started making jumpy cuts. And of course, I'm the only one noticing this shit. Jason, you edit, Jason, so you would notice it too. So it's like the camera started making these herky-jerky cuts, and I'm like, something's fucking up. And then Eva Marie's music hit. So somebody botched something somewhere, and I'm like, because I was like, oh, she's done X Factor how many times? Yes.
It was a definite, like, okay, it's telegraphed. Somebody, fifth person is coming out. What the fuck is going on?
Again, that's how little I was paying attention. I didn't even realize that the teams were lopsided.
Okay, let's for a second talk about Jason's expertise in film or in television.
Yeah.
So when Kane came back as the Demon Kane, and I remember Mike had posted, "Don't ruin Raw for me tonight," and my fucking profile picture was Kane with the mask on. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, dude."
Oh yeah.
And this is so many years ago. So like this
was.
is how much I respect Mike Wendt. Because I'm like, oh dude, I'm so sorry. But Jason,
okay. I have like 3 people on my Facebook that no matter how many times I tell them that I DVR Raw, like when something big, like they ruined Shane McMahon for me. I was on the bus coming home at 8:00, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up on the same 3 people on the fucking messenger, and I'm like,
and one of them wasn't me,
no, you guys, no, but it's the same. And every time I just write back these like capital letters, I DVR'd it.
That's what Twitter's for. You're supposed to vent on there.
Well, that's just it. I go social, like I actively go social media dark, between certain hours. I do it with Walking Dead. I do anything I want to watch because I know people are assholes like that,
Oh no, I try to be that asshole. I was the asshole that gave away The Force Awakens.
Yeah, you dickhead. I saw headline, I don't care if this spoils it for anybody, and then I slightly scroll down and I see a pic of Luke Skywalker. I'm like, I'm not fucking reading any of this. Hide this message immediately, you fucking asshole.
Yeah.
But Jason was that asshole. I'm sitting in the AAF studio, and he goes, it's like Kane's pyro's up. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was like, did you notice in the video? This is how meticulous Jason is, okay? Jason is a fanboy for fucking life because we've lost 3 co-hosts because of Jason, because no matter how sick, or
it's a bold
2
statement.
maybe, no matter how sick of wrestling people get, I will always stick to Jason like flies on shit, because when Jason gets excited, I get excited.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was like, dude, Jason, I don't know, man, Kane's not coming back. Did you notice the pyro on the turnbuckle? I'm like sitting there like,
oh, you meant the cannons.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The things with the
and Jason is literally the only person. So when I give it back to him, most people get mad. I'm like, dude, Jason,
I'm one of those tech geeks too. I was the one. I pointed out to my wife. I was watching one night, and all of a sudden I saw this like little black dot on the turnbuckle facing into the ring, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? That's new. What is that? And like maybe 20 minutes later, it was their cameras on the pole, and they showed that angle, and I'm like, oh, that's like I'm the guy. No, seriously, like I'll watch movies, but I'll spend like most of the time watching the extras. Because having done that a few times, I'm the guy that's always staring straight into camera on purpose.
So you are Jason's new best friend, because I literally was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's Kane's come back. He's like, dude, you didn't look at the turnbuckles. And I'm in the AF studio, and Jason's messaging me, and I'm like literally like looking for him, like, dude, I don't see it. And then Mark Henry does the World's Strongest Slam.
Yeah.
He goes to pin John Cena. And he's like, oh, I'm not supposed to pin John Cena. And he rolls over, and Jason immediately was like, Kane's coming. Right as Kane's coming out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that, because you're a fucking fan. If you weren't a fan, I'd fucking strangle you right now. And then the both of us, Kane, capital letters on Facebook, Kane with the mask on. Like, there's like an unspoken rule with fans. Like, you can spoil movies and be a dickhead. Jason would always spoil the end of a Raw for me. And I was totally okay with it, because he was so fucking excited about it that I'm like, dude, I have to be excited because you're fucking excited. Like when Y2J did the whole, like,
the trolling thing?
The trolling thing.
Yeah.
Jason was like, that's Y2J. I'm like, no, it's not. It's Undertaker. He's like, no, it's Y2J.
Now, okay. I don't want to get too far sidetracked because it's what, 10 o'clock now? Quarter past. Anyway, are you convinced that was originally from the start supposed to be Y2J?
Oh, hell no.
So which one?
The creepy little videos that turned into him.
I think that was supposed to be.
The
creepy one. Okay.
Yeah, it was like it was clearly the Undertaker, and then all of a sudden he comes running out like a fucking jagoff, and I'm like, all right, so the Undertaker's not ready to come back yet, is what they're saying.
So basically,
and Chris needs to promote his podcast and Fozzy for the next couple months.
So basically, Mike Wendt should have been friends with Jason and I during all of this, because Jason immediately was like, when the Undertaker came back with like the walking up to the house, Jason was like, oh, it's gonna be Sting. I'm like, oh, you jackass, Sting's not coming.
Oh, really?
That's Jason. And here's Mike Wendt. Like, oh yeah, it's probably Sting. If I knew Mike Wendt this personally back then, I'd be like, you know what? 2 against 1, fuck both of you. Like, that's not Sting. It's not happening. Now, Jason is the kind of fan that, like, I gave away the Star Wars ending. And Mike Wendt was like, yeah, I've already seen it like 5 times. Jason was like, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh yeah, dude. No, I was in that 17-hour marathon.
I was
legit.
reading those posts.
It was so like again, I hate getting this sidetracked at this point, but I mean, it was a cross between camping and being in a homeless shelter. I mean, legit. It was my first like in theater marathon that I had ever done, but there were dudes with sleeping bags. Some guy had a cooler full of old Chinese food that stunk, but he was like smart enough to bring food. Like,
okay,
I didn't know you could bring food. I was like,
this is why,
dude, I gotta run down the street to Dunks, man.
I'll admit something. This is why I hate Mike Wendt right now. So Mike Wendt, I fucking hate you. I don't even know you personally, but I hate you.
Sure.
My wife was reading all of Mike Wendt's posts and looks at me and goes, "You're not a Star Wars fan." And I go, "What?" And she goes, "You know your friend Mike Wendt?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, because I know him so personally."
Sure.
And she was like, "He loves Star Wars more than you to do that." And I'm laughing my ass off because this is a woman on our honeymoon. We watched Jaws.
Yep.
And she's telling me, "You're not a Star Wars fan." I'm like, "Fuck you, I'm not a Star Wars fan." She's like, "Yeah, but your buddy Mike Wendt." Because my wife, like, here's the thing with marriage is when you're married to somebody, they know your password on Facebook. So like if
No,
if they just fucking feel like it, they'll go on.
Maybe
My
yours
wife,
does.
at least.
Maybe yours does. Mine changes on the hour.
Yeah, the decoy Facebook, but not the.
Mine goes on Facebook just to see. And my wife has even admitted to me, I'm like, "Oh, you're on my Facebook." She was like, "Yeah." She was like, "I wanted to see how nerdy you and Jason really are."
Oh my God.
Man, I feel exposed now.
And she always laughs because she's like, "You're the one guy I never had to worry about because your conversation with Jason last night for 45 minutes was about The Undertaker."
I mean, at least it wasn't Vader cockpicks. That would be a bit more explaining to do.
But she sees Mike Wendt's post about Star Wars, and she's like, "Yeah, you're not a Star Wars fan." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm not a Star Wars fan?" "Yeah, you weren't there with Mike. Mike saw some shit."
Yeah, it was good times.
But meanwhile, I'm like, "Fuck you." And then, like, I give away the ending of Star Wars, and her friend, like, literally was like, "How dare you, Eddie? Fuck you." Meanwhile, like, I'm looking at my wife, like, "Is that cool?" And she's like, "No, Eddie, that's not cool." Gave away the ending of Star Wars.
I must have missed that post or something, or saw it like later, because I was really impressed with how few spoilers I saw. Like I thought Star Wars fans were doing a really good job of not spoiling it.
I gave it a week. It was like
a week. Okay, yeah. So I saw at that point I had seen it 4 times.
Yeah, like $8 billion later, it's like I can admit that Luke Skywalker didn't say a fucking word. He just
Is that all you said?
That's all I said. Like,
that's not even a spoiler. Shit. I thought you gave away Han Solo.
Plus a picture though.
Of what? Luke Skywalker?
Yeah.
Come on. He did a bunch of press with the beard. Everybody knew what he looked like. He looks like a Mark Hamill old.
Mike Wendt is officially Mark's on commentary now because Mike Wendt is on my side.
I mean, that's not a big deal. I mean, shit. Come on.
Shut up, Jason.
What'd you expect him to look like?
Did you see Mike? All right, I can't say because Mike hasn't seen Batman vs Superman. Damn it, Mike.
Nope. But anyway, speaking of Vader's cock, I think I'm going with Kane on the Andre Battle Royal just to get us back on track. Thoughts?
The fact that it's been bumped to the main show, I think there's more at play than just like one of the social outcasts getting it or something.
I think my pick would be Bray, but I think they're gonna go with Kane the way they've been. I mean, it's almost like they've been having Big Show pass the friggin' torch to him every week.
Are we playing spoilers or anything? Granted, I don't know anything, but
I haven't read anything. I'm looking at their site.
Am I going to wreck anything by saying anything?
Probably.
For you? Do you care?
Go for it. Go for it.
Supposedly, there's rumors of Cesaro returning.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So I can see
he won the first one, didn't he?
So, but even last year, there's always been that confrontation between him and Big Show. Maybe this is the tiebreaker between them.
Can I add that?
I'd be great.
This show has almost gone as long as WrestleMania.
That'd be great. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think they've been shoehorning. I think they've been heavy-handing Kane a bit too much on the show to have it not be him.
I'd be okay.
Especially because he doesn't have a lot of years left on him.
I think I'd be okay with Mark Henry getting the win.
Absolutely.
So that would be my pick if there's nobody else. But I
was the guy pulling for Axelmania last year. Let's be honest. I thought that would.
Well, funny enough, I'm the guy pulling for Axl Rose this year. So
with AC/DC, right?
Shut up, Mike.
Let's not go down another pathway, Eddie.
Anywho,
can I just add? All right,
yeah.
The 2 main events that mean shit at this WrestleMania. That's how you know I've been drinking too many Lemmys. WrestleMania. I want to get down to brass tacks with you guys.
All right.
Shane and Undertaker, Hell in a Cell.
Yep.
Makes no sense to me still, but
okay, and here's now we can start talking. Hang on. Now, here's my thought. And I'm going to kind of go all over the world in this one a little bit. In my opinion, and this is me just kind of reading probably a lot too much into what they're doing for advertising, but on the front of AT&T Stadium, they got a giant ass banner. And it's on one side, Triple H and Roman Reigns. On the other side, Shane McMahon, The Undertaker. Right in the middle is Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks. Now, the big argument has always been, who's going on last? Triple H and Roman Reigns or Hell in a Cell? Which one's more important? Is it more important that Shane McMahon takes over Monday Night Raw? Is it more important that they save Roman Reigns from being booed out of the arena at 11 o'clock at night? Well, here's a wrinkle that I just thought of tonight and kind of thought of, hey, this would be a great idea. And this would show how big their fucking balls are if they were going to pull the trigger on this. What if Sasha Banks wins the title and closes the show? And then the next night rebrands it.
Which is supposed to happen.
Right.
I think that's giving a lot of credit to the Divas division. Not that they're not going to put on a performance of a lifetime, but
I mean, let's think about it. If I was sitting in a room with creative and we're sitting there and the biggest concern is having the show, having the close of the show, not so much be the right thing, but be what will, okay, best way to describe it. Triple H, Roman Reigns. The general consensus, my opinion, Roman Reigns is going to win. Get booed out of the fucking building. You don't want that to close WrestleMania. Okay? You don't want, you just don't want that. You don't want 100,000 people in a record-setting building booing the shit out of the close of your show as the trademark pops up. Shane McMahon, Undertaker. No matter who wins, it's going to be a divided crowd one way or the other. Okay? And I can expound a little bit more on that in a minute. The only real guarantee that you have about 99,000 people on their feet going absolutely batshit crazy if Sasha Banks wins. And if I was in the room, that's exactly what I would say. If you
Can
want,
I jump into
if you
this?
want
Can
a
I jump
perfect,
into this?
yeah, go ahead.
That is the most innovative and brilliant idea I've ever heard. We have never, ever, in the history of being wrestling fans, have ever seen the Divas close out of WrestleMania.
No, you haven't. And
I think it's ever going to happen? Do I think it's going to happen? No. Exactly. Do I think it could happen based on what he just told us? That, honest God, I'm sitting here, and as soon as he said that,
I mean, you can picture it, right? Including basically recreating what they did at that takeover when Bayley won. Sure. Having even her come out and even having Charlotte just kind of stand up with them and do that 4 horsewoman thing to close fucking WrestleMania.
You know what?
Can see that with the fireworks going out.
Here's what bugs me.
It makes too much sense.
It makes too much sense because let's go socially now.
Yeah.
Let's go socially.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest argument I've heard against Hillary Clinton for a president is that she menstruates. This is the biggest argument I've heard. Now, in my mind, as a fan of wrestling and as a fan of films, I got to go with The Final Girls. Have either of you seen that movie?
No.
Phenomenal movie. In every finale of a horror movie, it's always the woman that defeats the bad guy. Oh my God, I'm like, my mind is like literally like, if this is The Godfather, my hand is on the table, knife through the hand, I'm sleeping with the fishes. Mike Wendt just introduced something that I couldn't even conceive of. The Divas title triple threat ends WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
That is the coolest idea I've ever heard of in my entire life. That is the coolest idea. Hell in a Cell, championship match, Divas. Why is that not happening right now?
And I'm going to be honest. I think the only, I would say the only person to make that call would be Triple H.
Sure.
Because he's been, I mean, you see what he's doing with NXT. And he would be the one that would have to sell Vince on that.
God damn it, Mike. That is literally, to me, that is the coolest idea I've ever fucking heard.
Yeah, no, that's why I text Paul tonight.
No, Jason, I have to ask you because I think you're a little ambivalent on this. Like, how fucking cool is that idea?
Philosophically, I have no problem with it. I definitely would love to see women main eventing WrestleMania at some point.
I mean, I don't think you're going to see a better 3 options to do it either.
But the logistical part of it is WWE is so full of themselves, just like they advertise the fuck out of that NXT special with the 2 girls main eventing. They would not wait a second to advertise the hell out of, for the first time, women are going to main event WrestleMania on the grandest stage of them all. They would go.
You know what though? Jason, you and I literally hugged each other last year because Seth Rollins won the championship. You and I learned in that hug.
Go on.
WWE can do anything.
Sure. I'm not saying that they can't do anything, but I'm saying they want to capitalize as much on a situation as they can. The first time ever doing something like that, you bet your ass they would.
I don't know. I'm torn between both of you because I got to think like Mike's got a great point. Like,
you also got to think about it this way. Now, even though it was a foregone conclusion what was going to happen, Daniel Bryan wasn't booked in the main event of the WrestleMania that he won. Even though we all knew that was the story it was going to play out, he wasn't in that match. Now, they're in the business of making moments. Now, if they were, again, I might be giving them a lot too much credit, but if they were to oversell it, they could fall victim to literally overselling it. If the night's just going on and you're watching the night and everybody's expecting Triple H and Roman Reigns to go on last, and then their match ends and everybody's looking at their clock and it's like, Jesus, it's 10:30. What the fuck are we doing here? Holy shit, we forgot the Divas match.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
I don't think the people would sit through the entire match.
I don't think it's going to happen, but
absolutely not. I absolutely not.
I definitely think right now Mike Wendt is onto a great point. I should just call you Mike, but I'm going to call you Mike Wendt for posterity's sake.
Sure. But I mean, I don't believe
a cool fucking idea, dude. Like,
I don't believe it will happen. I
definitely won't. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm telling you right now. Like, I think it's a great idea. It's not gonna happen, but
I mean, if it was, I mean, it would be like that. That would be that moment, because otherwise there's going to be.
And Mike Wendt, you know what Mike Wendt's doing right now? He's making up for his Ghostbusters comment.
Oh yeah,
Oscar.
Well, see that was the thing. It's like my problem with the Ghostbusters movie had nothing to do with women. I just don't think first of all, I don't think the director has done funny movies. You know, and I don't think the actresses in it have done funny movies. That doesn't do with the fact that they're women. I just don't find them funny. As you know.
You know what I think would be cool as fuck though is if we got an Iron Man match out of them, because Bayley has done it. You know what I mean?
So
like,
Sasha.
Yeah. This is the thing that I think is cool about the Divas division is we're not giving credit to them.
Now, was it? I'm trying to keep on topic, but was it you guys that created the picture of the belt?
Yeah, I made a quick little edit job based on what I heard.
I really like the silver big gold belt thing.
I actually threw that at Charlotte, and she was like, "That's awesome."
Oh no shit.
Yeah. So.
Oh cool.
I was like, you know what? That belt is dead now. Essentially, it's in the archives. It's never going to be used again. She would have been the perfect person to take that and revitalize it and give it another purpose.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they're all about that branding shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's why they send a belt to every team that wins whatever the hell they win. You know, Little League got a trophy and they got a belt too. You know, they'll send it to everybody. So now they're going to start doing it with women's sports as well. Of course,
I'm curious to see what it looks like. I hope it's not an identical. I would like some visually different thing between the World Heavyweight and the Divas title or the Women's title, whatever it's going to be.
The funny thing is, I might be alone on this, but I think Charlotte actually looks good with the belt she has. I think she's the first person to actually wear that belt and be like, and not make it look ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, it just, I don't know, it just fits her body. I think that's more what it is than the actual belt itself.
Sure.
But and I think the way that women's wrestling is going, they need to step that shit up.
Yeah.
And
well, you know what?
And that leads me to Shane McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the one that's going to make that change. And I granted, it's. I think that the Undertaker was the wrong person to put in that position.
Yeah, I agree.
Because now you have to make that decision again. Much like the last conversation we had, this is going to just show just as big as balls as if they let the women close the show. If they're going to pull the trigger on Shane McMahon being the second person to beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania, I don't care how many run-ins you have. I don't care how much shenanigans go on. That's
the brass tacks.
I mean, him and Brock Lesnar are now going to be on the equal playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did read something on Reddit, and I will say that I do kind of agree with this. Undertaker loses at WrestleMania.
Yep.
Shane gains control of Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Sting comes out because he's been very vocal about this and says, "No, I'm going to retire when I get to wrestle this guy." They say either SummerSlam or Survivor Series, it's Sting versus Undertaker, preferably SummerSlam. And Shane McMahon reinstates Undertaker and says, give him his last match. He's going to retire. You're already retired.
Well,
give him his last match.
Well, it's a lot of shoehorning going on.
Yeah.
And the thing about this match is they've been very careful with every bit of their wording. Shane isn't taking over WWE. He's taking over Monday Night Raw. The Undertaker doesn't have to retire if he loses. He just can't wrestle at WrestleMania ever again. Now, he's going to start the Fastlane streak coming up pretty soon. I can't wait for that. Maybe even a Roadblock one. That'll be good. But they've been very specific about everything they say, which, again, going to that point makes me feel like Triple H and Roman Reigns are going to go on last because they spend so much time on Monday saying the main event, the main event, the main event, you know, which they're going to make their bed and they're going to have to lie in it because it's been, after watching Monday, I actually did a little bit of research and it's been less than a handful of times that a heel has left WrestleMania with the title. You know, and one of those times was Austin when he sided with McMahon. Yeah. So it almost doesn't count.
Well,
I'm getting to my Mania point.
Go on.
No, go for it because I'm just saying, like, we're getting up there in terms of time, the show. So I want Jason to get his point across.
I was against Undertaker losing up until probably a couple days ago. I agree that Shane winning might probably be the right move, and it almost resets the pace in the company. Okay.
Right.
Shane is essentially the most over babyface on the whole roster now.
Well, they gave him the internet's voice.
Yeah. Okay. The opposing view is what? It's Roman Reigns. Okay. Yeah. How can you end WrestleMania with Roman Reigns as champion and have a shocking moment that people will get behind? The end of the night, you have fucking Triple H out there. Fucking Shawn Michaels comes down, tries to intervene. Who's the counterpoint to help Roman Reigns? It's The Rock. You know, you go through the whole match. Reigns wins the title. Rock comes in, holds his hand up. Hey, we're going to, celebrate. Reigns fucking takes him out immediately.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Who would not be shocked by that moment? Reigns is now heel. You set up your next WrestleMania almost if you want Rock and Roman Reigns. I think that is the way to end this show. It's because you've built up. Rock is going to be there. He's going to do something substantial. It's been 4 fucking months that we've had to hear that Rock is coming back. I don't know. That to me is how you end WrestleMania if you want Roman Reigns walking out with the belt.
I mean that's the only I agree. And I actually when I was recording out on the deck earlier tonight, I said the same exact thing. He has to do that because that's the only. It's almost like that would be the WWE playing into the whole. If you can't beat him, join him. Yeah. The people aren't going to cheer for him. So if they're going to boo him, you might as well give them a reason to boo, because he can't be sitting there playing babyface to 100,000 people shitting all over him.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're going to shit on him, you might as well take out the guy they love.
My wild eye perception of this, though, is that if he does that, then you gotta have the Bullet Club come out.
I mean, that's a Raw after Mania debut. Exactly. If that. But I think they got to set up Ambrose versus Reigns.
Can I just say though that
yeah.
What are we at now? WrestleMania 33 going into the next one.
Next one's 33.
Yeah,
33.
This is 32.
I have to agree with Mike on this. The Divas won't ever have credibility until they do a ladder match or until they do a. You can't have the girls in the division unless they play like the boys do.
Well, I mean, this kind of plays into my pet peeve about how they name pay-per-views. I felt, when they started naming the pay-per-view called Hell in a Cell, I thought every match should have been a Hell in a Cell, including the Divas match. I thought last year Nikki Bella versus Charlotte would have tore the house down in a cell. I still believe that because I thought they put on a good match. So why not just put a cage around them?
They'll never do it until it's like they realize like oh, this will get buy rates. I think personally, I'm on track with Mike. I said the same thing. I said this when Beth Phoenix was in WWE. They should do a TLC match with Beth Phoenix against Diva. I personally think that if they end WrestleMania this year on that note, WrestleMania next year should be with the Divas.
Sure. I think this year is about establishing the Divas. I don't know if you necessarily do that in the main event, but any one of them against like a Ronda Rousey next year, that's your main event. I'm fine with that being the main event.
Yeah, I mean, my point. I think they could. I think they could main event. I think they're going to put on a great match. Mine was more an argument of you have a problem with the close of your show. And you need to send the people, not so much send the people home happy, but you need something good for your fucking show. It's a TV it's a TV show, remember? Yeah. So it's like,
and this is the season finale.
Exactly, for lack of a better term, right? So you don't want 100,000 people shitting on your hero, and it's like
unless that's what you wanted,
unless he's going to play the villain. If they're gonna make the call and Roman's gonna play the villain. Fine. That's a fine close to the show because that's what is going to happen. But if they try to do what they did when he won the Royal Rumble with The Rock sitting there and the two of them looking like goofs, it's gonna look. You're gonna look like goofs.
To see that though, last year was proof. Like
I think some of them are smart enough to see it, but I mean, you want to hope that the right people see it and the right people talk to the more right people. And then that person sees what they're saying and makes that call. But ultimately that right person is Vince because like with, John Cena, he's not that I'm in any of these meetings that I know anything about this shit, but you want to believe that he's very instrumental in Roman Reigns' career right now. He picks who the face of his company is and he wants it to be this guy. He thinks he's the next Rock. You know what I mean?
I have to point out for the first time in Mark's on commentary history, this show has almost hit the 3-hour mark.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, we can cut most of the radio shit out. You could.
I think personally, going into Mania, if this is all day Mania, this is all day Marks and Mike.
Yeah, I mean, Mania is with the post show, it's gonna be what 7-8 hours, something like that.
So I do have to be the producer here.
Oh, okay.
Partially a producer, and say that
the partial producer.
Partial producer.
Yeah, there you go.
So, if we're gonna end the show on any note, final thoughts on WrestleMania, Mike and Jason. What do we got?
I think it'll be a B-. in terms of if I'm giving it a grade.
Mike, your thoughts on that?
I've honestly never been one to give letter grades. I've always kind of just taken shit at face value, like, you know. And I've even found, you know, I can find like once I get there, once the show starts, it's, you know, everything that's the build up doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, so I just want them to put on a good show. So now it's like I said earlier on, the point to the show is you tell a story. At the end of the story, 2 guys, 2 women, etc., have a fight. Now we're at the fight. The build-up doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. So as long as the fights are good, and as long as they don't just, you know, stink up the joint, I really don't. I just want to be entertained. That's all. I'm looking forward to the food more than anything. I got some ribs and some wings I'm planning to do, and, you know, a bunch of beers on ice. I'm ready to rock and roll, man. So this is, you know, I've said it before. It used to be the Super Bowl. Now it's the All-Star game. So I'm just looking to have a good time.
So now I have to say, for Marks on Commentary, I hope we get Mike Wendt back for more shows, because this has literally been the most fun I've ever had doing Marks on Commentary.
I'm with you.
So,
well, thank you guys.
Well, thank you for coming.
So, honest to God, so for Marks on Commentary, I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
And I'm Mike Wendt.
Honestly, expect more from Mike Wendt, because honestly, I had so much fun with him. So much fun.
Pretty easy for me, you know. I'm just sitting back, leaning on my couch.
So I'm gonna let you guys go, but this was a good time, man.
Good times.
Honest to God. So, Mike Wendt, thank you, and Jason, thank you, and this was Marks on Commentary.
Thanks for having me, guys.